Chapter 1925. Triumphant return 2 days later, in the Shangxingtian small immortal realm, the first city of the Sky Taihuang sect, the Yunluo ancient city. Did you see it yesterday? Almost everyone from the Supreme Taoism factions is here. Yeah. The exceptional geniuses of the ancient tribes, the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect, and the Sanqing ancient sect are here too. Such a lineup is on par with the battle of the strongest immortal. Tisk Tsk, after all, he's the only strongest immortal that everyone in the immortal realm has acknowledged in the past 5,000 years. Many cultivators were chatting with one another. It was a lively scene. Some cultivators even purposely came to take a look at Qin Nan's face. After all, Qin Nan had risen to fame in the Shangxingtian small immortal realm. They clearly remembered the legendary things that Qin Nan had done. However, they did not notice a figure in a black robe with his face covered and his aura concealed walking down the street and arriving at the bottom of the ancient cloudy path. The ancient cloudy path was over 100,000 zhang long. It soared into the clouds. At the end of the path stood a giant golden arched door. Once one stepped through the door, they would enter the receiving dojo of the realm of the sky, one of the 3 realms of the Sky Taihuang sect. Currently, many cultivators were walking up the ancient cloudy path. Some of them were heaven immortals. The reason was that the Sky Taihuang sect had a rule. Even the patriarch was not allowed to fly on the ancient cloudy path. He had to enter the realm through the stairs. Brother, are you a disciple of the Sky Taihuang sect? Why are you wearing a black robe? A voice said. Qin Nan turned around and saw a blue-haired young man in an immortal robe. His cultivation was in the peak earth immortal realm. There were a few others beside the young man. They too had reached the peak earth immortal realm. It was obvious that these people had a formidable background. The blue-haired young man chuckled before Qin Nan could speak. Brother, I'm Lan Yu. You can call me Brother Lan like the others. The people beside Lan Yu glanced at Qin Nan and withdrew their gazes as they lost interest in him. They began to chat among themselves. Qin Nan smiled but did not say anything. He continued walking. Lan Yu, on the other hand, seemed to be a little talkative. He said, Bro, you must have come from afar, right? Was she here specifically to see Qin Nan? To tell you the truth, Qin Nan and I have a close relationship. Qin Nan raised his eyebrows and asked with great interest, How come you're so close? Lan Yu patted Qin Nan's shoulder and said proudly, You don't know, but during the battle of the strongest immortal, Qin Nan and I met in an immortal ancient place. We both saw an opportunity and fought. At that time, Qin Nan wasn't as strong as he is now. We fought for several hours, but we still couldn't determine the victor. However, Qin Nan was still slightly stronger than me at that time, so I was at a disadvantage. However, we suddenly encountered a great danger. We exchanged glances with one another and decided to team up. Lan Yu kept talking. He explained the details as he walked. He could not stop talking at all. If it were anyone else, they would probably believe it without a doubt. They soon arrived at the end of the cloudy ancient path. They went through an arched door and arrived at the dojo. Unlike the usual silence, the dojo was crowded with the outer disciples and inner disciples of the Sky Taihuang sect. There were at least 500 of them, resulting in a lively scene. Not many people in the Shangxingtian small immortal realm were here for Qin Nan, but the disciples of the Sky Taihuang sect were different. Qin Nan had never shown up in the Sky Taihuang sect apart from the battle of the strongest immortal. Many disciples had no idea who the strongest exceptional genius in their sect was. They had never seen him before. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Meanwhile, a few whooshes took place as 6 figures floated in front of the dojo with overwhelming auras of the peerless ruler realm. The 6 elders of the outer and inner disciples are here. Many outer disciples raised their heads in astonishment. Following this, another ray of light came from the distance, which transformed into a figure. When the disciples saw the figure, they were astounded. Greetings, Envoy Feng Hua. All the disciples bowed in unison. Envoy Feng Hua had successfully achieved the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm. He was now one of the reputable authorities in the Shang-Xingtian small immortal realm. His reputation was a lot higher than before. It's Envoy Feng Hua. Lan Yu and the young men beside him were startled. At this moment, Emissary Feng Hua looked around and finally looked at Lan Yu and the others. Haha, Envoy Feng Hua finally recognized me. Bro, you may not know this, but a few months ago, my father and I paid a special visit to Envoy Feng Hua. Envoy Feng Hua even complimented me. Lan Yu seemed a little excited. However, before he could finish, Envoy Feng Hua harumphed and snapped, "Qin Nan, you little prick, why are you still being so secretive when you've returned to the sect?" As soon as these words came out, it was no less than a supreme clap of thunder. The disciples, Lan Yu, and the others were startled. The strongest immortal, Qin Nan, had returned? Qin Nan wore a calm smile. He reached out his hand and took off his black robe. His blue-red hair drifted in the wind as he brought his fists together. Disciple Qin Nan greets Envoy Feng Hua and the elders. The crowd immediately gathered their attention onto Qin Nan's figure. Lan Yu and the young men stared with wide eyes. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The young man that had followed them all the way here was the famous Qin Nan. Lan Yu, in particular, felt like his face was burning when he recalled the boasting he had made along the way. He had an urge to dig a hole and hide inside it. Shameful, this time it was really too shameful. Why did he have to boast in front of the person he was talking to? It was also at this moment that dozens of whooshing sounds could be heard as one figure after another flew over from afar. They were the peerless geniuses of the Shang-Xingtian small immortal realm. Wan Shao, Jian Wuheng, and the others were among them. They immediately made their way here as soon as they saw Envoy Feng Hua. Qin Nan. Wan Shao, Jian Wuheng, and the others were startled when they saw Qin Nan. Qin Nan. Suddenly, a thunderous roar exploded in the sky above the dojo. An old man with white hair reaching his waist and dark green eyes carrying an ancient sword on his back arrived in the air with a furious look. A shocking aura burst out of the old man's body. It surged across the place like a strong gust of wind. The disciples, Lan Yu, and the peerless geniuses were startled. The faces of those with lower cultivations paled. "It's the authority of the extreme living gate, Supreme Songlong." An inner disciple blurted out. "Qin Nan, hand him over at once." Furious roars took place once again. A middle-aged man in a robe covered in black stripes, a young woman with snow-white skin whose hair was tied up in a bun, and an old man whose eyes were closed and whose face was full of wrinkles and thinning hair arrived at the dojo. They were Supreme Darklight of the Reincarnation Sect, Supreme Lingluo of the Illusionary Immortal Tao Gate, and Supreme Serene Eyes of the Sky Inheriting Sect. In addition to them, a middle-aged man with a blurred face with an icy aura, an expressionless old man with a wooden stick like the blazing sun, a woman wearing a veil with a pleasant scent, and a young man with snow-white hair arrived one after another. Supreme Tong Shao of the Wengu tribe, Supreme Zhu Ling of the Nongyan tribe, Supreme Han Xiang of the Sanqing Ancient Sect, Supreme Hua of the Tao Execution Gate. A total of 8-9 Heavens Supremes had arrived. The entire sky was covered in darkness as countless lightning flickered. The rift was filled with cracks as strong gusts swept in all directions, causing the spacious dojo to tremble vigorously. On top of it, the 9 Heavens Supremes were clearly infuriated. They were all emitting overwhelming auras. The faces of the disciples, Wan Shao, Jian Wuheng, and the rest of the peerless geniuses turned pale. Their figures began to tremble uncontrollably. Right now, they were like a bunch of ants facing 8 supreme giants. These 9 Heavens Supremes are here to teach Qin Nan and the Sky Taihuang sect a lesson in front of the crowd. Wan Shao was astounded. He subconsciously looked at Qin Nan. With one look, his pupils suddenly shrank. Qin Nan's expression remained calm despite the overwhelming pressure, as if it was the end of the world. He did not show any sign of fear as he remained calm. If they were like ants compared to the 8-9 Heavens Supremes, Qin Nan's performance was like a titan that was crushing the 9 Heavens Supremes on equal footing. Seniors, there are many of our sect's disciples here. Please retract all of your pressure. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, that won't work on me. Many disciples and the peerless geniuses gasped upon hearing the words. If they were facing 8 infuriated 9 Heavens Supremes, even if they knew their lives were not in danger, they would not dare to say something like that. What did you say? Supreme Dark Light of the Reincarnation Sect and Supreme Serene Eyes of the Sky Inheriting Sect wore dark expressions. A terrifying aura burst out of their bodies, as if it was going to shatter the heavens and earth. Unlike the other factions, the person that Qin Nan had recruited was the strongest exceptional genius of their sect. Fellow cultivators, you have come a long way. How can you discuss business on the dojo? Please come to the sect leaders' hall. An imperious voice came from the distance, followed by a magnificent glow. It formed a bridge leading deep into the Taihuang realm. Chapter 1926. The Trouble of the Formidable Factions. 1. Seniors, this way please. Envoy Feng Hua made a gesture with a smile. Humph. Supreme Dark Light of the Reincarnation Sect and Supreme Closing Eyes of the Sky Inheriting Sect flung their sleeves and stepped onto the path of light. The rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes gave Qin Nan a thoughtful look before following behind them. Kid, you're quite the troublemaker. Do you have any idea how many things we've given away just to settle the matter? Envoy Feng Hua glanced at Qin Nan and snapped. Thank you, Senior Envoy, thank you, Supreme Patriarch. Qin Nan smiled and bowed. All right, let's go. Envoy Feng Hua rolled his eyes. Qin Nan nodded and brought his fists together at the disciples, before flying into the path of light and disappearing from sight. The dojo fell silent. A few moments later, the crowd burst into an uproar. So that's the style of the strongest immortal. Senior brother Qin Nan is indeed worthy of his reputation. If there comes a day when I can face 8 supreme martial artists calmly, then that will be enough. The disciples, including the peerless geniuses, exclaimed. Wan Zhao's eyes flickered with a complicated look. Perhaps he should not have come. It would only make him feel more regretful. If he had followed Qin Nan, he might have been involved in the rare phenomena of the 6 Unity Forbidden Land and the competition between the exceptional geniuses in the realm of the primordial blood. Not long after, the Patriarch's Hall in the realm of Taihuang, Qin Nan immediately received a few dozen gazes as soon as he entered the hall. However, he remained expressionless. He bowed at Supreme Chang Shao before observing the people in the hall. Below the 8-9 Heavens Supremes were 3 other 9 Heavens Supremes. They were an old man covered in ancient runes with a bone longsword on his waist with a few bells tied to the hilt, a beautiful woman in a red dress, and a middle-aged man with hollow eyes. That Supreme Longha of the heaven-repelling ancient sect, Supreme 3 Wonders of the 9 Palace Golden Immortal sect, and Supreme Huanshan of the heaven-slaying sect. Envoy Feng Hua immediately transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He could understand why the 9 Heavens Supremes of the heaven-slaying sect were here, but he did not suppress the exceptional geniuses of the heaven-repelling ancient sect and the 9 Palace Golden Immortal sect. Was it because he was the successor of the immortals? The 9 Heavens Supremes of the 9 Heavens, Supremes of the 9 Heavens, Supremes of the 9 Heavens Supremes. 9 Heavens Supremes of the Heavens, Supremes of the 9 Heavens, Supremes of the 9 Peerless Heavens. On top of that, a few dozen people sitting on the right immediately caught Qin Nan's attention. Judging from their outfits, they were the core disciples of the Sky Taihuang sect, the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect, and the Sanqing Ancient sect. They had all achieved the greater success stage of the Tao realm. The young man with black hair and an expressionless face with a thunderous flicker in his eyes, the young man in an ancient robe with 3 ancient rulers of different sizes hanging on his waist, and the young woman with a blue veil covering her face, with a pair of glittering eyes and a slender figure, caught Qin Nan's attention. The reason being that they were all peerless rulers, especially the young man with lightning eyes, who had achieved the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. This is the exceptional genius of our Sky Taihuang sect, Lei Daoming. If you weren't Hua, he would be the strongest exceptional genius. He might be the next envoy. Envoy Feng Hua transmitted his voice. Envoy Feng Hua said telepathically. He especially emphasized the words next envoy. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. The other one is the strongest exceptional genius of the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect, Mu Jingzi. The woman with a veil over her face is the strongest exceptional genius of the Sanqing Ancient sect, Zhao Li. As for the rest, you will have to find them yourself. Envoy Feng Hua said. 2 of them are the strongest exceptional geniuses, and an exceptional genius who almost became the strongest exceptional genius? The immortal flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He was not worried about Lei Daoming, but Mu Jingzi and Zhao Li had followed him to the Sky Taihuang sect. It was obvious what they were hinting at. Cultivator Qin Nan, I've heard a lot about you. I'm very curious about something. Which immortal did you learn from? Supreme Longhe of the heaven-repelling ancient sect suddenly asked. Many of the people present were moved by this. It was the biggest question in their minds. After all, learning from the first 4 immortals and learning from the remaining 6 immortals was very different. It had different meanings too. Cultivator Longhe, you're a 9 heavens supreme too. Do you really think it's appropriate to talk about it here? Supreme Chang Shao said coldly. It was obvious that he was not fond of the people of the heaven-repelling ancient sect. Supreme Longhe chuckled indifferently. Supreme Dark Light of the Reincarnation sect slammed the cup in his hand onto the table and said coldly, "Let's not talk about anything else, just let them go." Supreme Chang Shao looked at Qin Nan and raised his brows. "Imbecile, what are you waiting for?" Qin Nan was his honorable disciple, thus they were master and disciple. However, even though he had called Qin Nan an unfilial disciple with a harsh tone, everyone knew that Supreme Chang Shao had no intention of blaming Qin Nan. "Yes, master." Qin Nan brought his fists together. He waved his hand, summoning Lu Gufeng, Tang Tianjun, Wu Huixing, Zong Chang, Gu Feng, Gu Xiaoyao, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses. "Holy crap, I'm fine? Why are you here, old man?" Tang Tianjun was overjoyed at first, but he soon wore a doubtful look. Supreme Closing Eyes of the Sky Inheriting sect wore a dark expression. "What?" The other exceptional geniuses were stunned. "Where am I?" "Li, what's wrong?" "What's wrong, Qin?" "Nan, you're here." "I've done it." "What?" Lu Gufeng looked around him and sensed the changes in his body. He blurted out. Many people's hearts skipped a beat when they heard the word. Cough cough. "Gufeng, that's enough, I'll tell you." Supreme Dark Light of the Reincarnation sect quickly interrupted him. He pulled Lu Gufeng to his side. He was familiar with Lu Gufeng's bad habit. It was fine if Lu Gufeng only spoke briefly, but if he spoke too long, he would be left speechless. The other 9 Heavens Supremes quickly told the exceptional geniuses what had happened. They also performed some checks to see if there was anything unusual. Supreme Chang Shao and the authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect twisted their lip. Even though they already knew the truth, they could not help but think that Qin Nan was being too bold. He was on par with Fei Yue in the past. "Patriarch, I have something to report," Qin Nan said. "Oh? What is it?" Supreme Chang Shao raised his brows. Many people were astounded. Qin Nan was clearly not done with the exceptional geniuses after he released them. However, why did Qin Nan speak before the other factions did? "I was involved in a few battles when I was cultivating outside. I had to suppress the disciples of other factions to protect myself. I hope the Patriarch can send someone to escort them back. Qin Nan summoned Master Liujie and the others after finishing the sentence. The exceptional geniuses were dumbfounded when they came out. What was going on? Liujie of the ancient Bodhi Temple, the superfluous lifeless sect, and the 10 Desires sect. Did you do all these things recently? Supreme Chang Zhao's eyelids jumped. The 9 Heaven Supremes and the peerless rulers of the other factions were dumbfounded. No one would have thought that Qin Nan was the culprit behind all the incidents that had caused a great uproar in the past. The Sky Taihuang sect is really good at teaching their disciples. I didn't expect the exceptional geniuses of 3 Supreme Taoism factions would be killed too. Supreme Closing Eyes of the Sky Inheriting sect chuckled coldly. Supreme Chang Shao finally collected his thoughts. He glared at Qin Nan and coughed. Feng Hua, bring the exceptional geniuses to the immortal returning pond so they can rest up. The 9 Heaven Supremes of various factions calmed down slightly after hearing the words. The immortal returning pond was one of the important places of the Sky Taihuang sect. It was incredibly magical. Normally, even the 9 Heavens Supremes of the sect would have to put in a lot of effort just to cultivate in it for some time. Fellow cultivators, I'll bring you there. Envoy Feng Hua hurriedly made his move. Rays of light landed on Lu Gufeng and the others, forcibly taking them away. However, as they were leaving the Patriarch's hall, some voices came from the rift. Qin Nan, I'll never forgive you. Cultivator Qin Nan, I'll make you pay for what you've done. The entire hall instantly fell silent. Something like this had never happened in the past few thousand years in the 9 Heavens immortal realm. In the end, Supreme Hanxiang of the Sanqing ancient sect spoke. She said coldly, Qin Nan has already achieved such a remarkable cultivation at such a young age. Apart from bringing the exceptional geniuses back, we're also here to ask the younger generation of our sect to have a friendly duel with cultivator Qin Nan. Is that possible? Here it comes. Many people straightened their faces. Supreme Chang Shao squinted. Before he could speak, Supreme Ling Luo of the illusionary immortal Tao Gate said with a smile, Cultivator Qin Nan is able to defeat the exceptional geniuses of our factions, including Lu Gufeng and Tang Tianjun on his own. It's quite impressive. In my opinion, it's a great opportunity today. Why don't we let Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Lier have a friendly duel with Qin Nan? It'll be more interesting. Supreme Comprehension of the Wenga tribe nodded and burst out laughing. Cultivator Ling Luo is right. It's rare to see such a duel in 100 years. That's right, I hope Cultivator Chang Shao can grant our request, so we can witness the strength of the exceptional geniuses of the Shangxingtian small immortal realm. That's right, I've long wanted to witness the true strength of the strongest immortal. The rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes agreed. The authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect were startled. Mu Jingze and Zhao Lier were considered the strongest exceptional geniuses of the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect and the Sanqing Ancient sect, yet Lei Daoming was even stronger than them. Qin Nan was surely going to lose if he took on the 3 of them on his own. Besides, the factions must have come prepared when they mentioned the duel. If Qin Nan was going to lose the duel, they would severely injure Qin Nan so severely that he would not be able to recover from it for 10 years. Supreme Chang Shao said calmly, Everyone's suggestion is quite interesting, but I can't make the decision myself. It's up to them. Lei Daoming, are you willing to team up with Mu Jingze and Zhao Lier to take on Qin Nan? As he spoke, his gaze sharpened. Lei Daoming brought his fists together calmly and said, Patriarch, I can't say no since the 9 Heavens Supremes are so interested. The lips of some of the 9 Heavens Supremes curled upward. It was what they were most willing to see. Supreme Chang Shao nodded. He looked at Qin Nan and said, Qin Nan, what about you? He transmitted his voice to Qin Nan as he asked, Kid, don't worry, the sect will take care of it for you. They aren't friendly, just reject them. It won't be a problem. Qin Nan's heart was filled with warmth. He had made such a huge mistake this time, but since he had returned to the sect, not only had Supreme Chang Shao and Supreme Feng Hua not punished him, they had not even scolded him. The Sky Taihuang sect had been treating him well. Patriarch, I'm willing. Qin Nan brought his fists together and said. The actions of the various forces just happened to be what he wanted, so how could he refuse? Supreme Chang Shao was startled. He did not expect Qin Nan to accept the offer. Chapter 1927. The Trouble of the Formidable Factions, Part 2, Qin Nan, enough with the nonsense. The three of them are no ordinary foes, and they are well prepared too. You are going to suffer serious injuries in the end. Supreme Chang Shao transmitted his voice. Patriarch, if they insist on fighting, I will have to fight too, even if it means I will suffer serious injuries. Qin Nan shook his head. Besides, the Sky Taihuang sect had already helped him a lot. There was no need for them to pay the price. Ugh! Supreme Chang Shao was left speechless. He did not know what to say. He was too concerned about Qin Nan, so he had forgotten about one thing. Qin Nan was the strongest immortal and the successor of the immortals. He must have his own principles. He might even have his own path. Even if he knew he was walking into a bottomless abyss, he still had to go on. As expected of the strongest immortal, even many exceptional geniuses are no match for him. Supreme Ling Luo of the illusionary immortal Tao Gate grinned. The rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes and the peerless rulers shared the same reaction too. Even though they were not planning to kill Qin Nan, they would not let Qin Nan off easy either. Right then, Supreme Vast Wave of the Extreme Living Gate suddenly called out, "Hold on!" The crowd immediately looked in his direction. Supreme Songlong wore a cold grin and said, "In my opinion, it's very unfair. Qin Nan is the strongest immortal, but what's the strongest immortal? He's unbeatable among the immortals. Even if Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li'er teamed up, I'm afraid they will lose in no time. They are no match for Qin Nan. Therefore, Qin Nan has to seal half of his immortal force. That way, they will be on par with each other, allowing Qin Nan and the 3 cultivators to have an enjoyable duel." The authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect wore twisted expressions upon hearing the words. Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li'er would lose in no time? Qin Nan had to seal half of his cultivation to be on par with the others? This supremacy Songlong was truly spouting too much nonsense. If that's the case, we'll let bygones be bygones. If not, our factions will demand an explanation from the Sky Taihuang sect. Supremacy, Songlong said coldly. That makes sense. Fellow Taoist Blue Waves is wise. The other 9 Heavens Supremes nodded. They had been planning to do so from the very beginning. Lei Daoming was expressionless while Mu Jingze and Zhao Li'er had a hint of helplessness in their eyes. Supreme Chang Shao was about to speak when a burst of laughter came from the hall. Supreme Huanshan of the Heaven-Slaying sect said with a disdainful look, "Enough with the nonsense. Don't even think of using it to inflict serious injuries on Qin Nan. I don't mind telling you that no one below the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm can stand a chance against him, no matter how many of them there are. Stop humiliating yourself here." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall instantly fell silent. Supreme Songlong of the Extreme Living Gate was the first to react. He burst out laughing and said with a disdainful look, "Cultivator Huanshan, are you purposely slandering Qin Nan? Qin Nan might be strong, but does he dare to say he's unbeatable among the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm? What a joke! Qin Nan is at most a peerless ruler in the greater success stage. Does he really think he's unbeatable? Hee, even Empress Feiyue wouldn't dare to say she's unbeatable even if there were more people than her." Many among the 9 Heavens Supremes and peerless rulers mocked Qin Nan. Their eyes were filled with disdain. They were disdainful toward Supreme Huanshan. Wasn't it a little too petty to smear Qin Nan's name? Supreme Huanshan's eyes flickered with pity. He said, "A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. I'm too lazy to waste my time talking to you. I've already warned you." Supreme Longha of the heaven-repelling ancient sect chuckled and said, "Cultivator Huanshan, that's enough. If you think Qin Nan is unbeatable, why don't we do as Supreme Songlong said, and let Qin Nan have a duel with the 3 young cultivators?" The authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect wore displeased looks. Even Supreme Chang Shao felt blue veins on his forehead twitching. In their eyes, Supreme Songlong and the others were obviously echoing Supreme Huanshan's words. However, before he could speak, Qin Nan said calmly, "If that's the case, I'll seal off half of my immortal force." Supreme Chang Zhao's expression shifted. He immediately transmitted his voice, "Qin Nan, you can't allow it." Qin Nan looked at him and said, "Patriarch, don't worry, I'm not an impulsive person. I know what I'm doing." Supreme Chang Shao was left speechless when he saw the determination in Qin Nan's eyes. A few moments later, he waved his hand helplessly and transmitted his voice, "Do whatever you want." Since the situation had come to this, and Qin Nan was unwilling to back down, there was nothing he could say. He could only teach Qin Nan a lesson. That was fine too. However, since it's a duel, we'll stop when the time comes. There's no need to go all out. We'll stop after 1,000 breaths. Supreme Exalt Chang Shao spoke with a resolute tone, and he refuted in an indisputable manner. "Got it." Supreme Songlong and the others exchanged glances with one another and nodded in agreement. It was already impressive that they were able to come to this point. It would only backfire if they kept pushing the matter. Besides, 1,000 breaths was more than enough for them to stop the duel. "Let's do it here." Supreme Chang Shao flicked his finger. A light barrier appeared in the hall and covered the area within a few thousand zhang. Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li immediately flew into the light barrier. Qin Nan went into the light barrier too. "Friend Qin Nan, I'm sorry that things didn't go as planned." Mu Jingze transmitted a thought to him. "Qin Nan, I was planning to teach you a lesson today, but since things have come to this, I don't want to bully you anymore. Either way, I'll go easy on you for the sake of that blockhead Tang Qingshan." Zhao Li blinked. "Tang Qingshan? Senior brother? Do you know him? Where is he now?" Qin Nan was startled. His eyes flickered with joy as he asked. "You two are pretty close, your eyes are glowing whenever you talk about each other. Don't tell me you two are into each other." "Ugh, that's disgusting," Zhao Li shuddered, but she still transmitted her voice. "Tang Qingshan knew you would ask. He asked me to tell you that he's now an immortal emperor. Don't worry about him." Qin Nan was startled. Had he become a peerless ruler? Meanwhile, Supreme Chang Shao said calmly, "Let's begin." Following it, a tremendous aura burst out of Lei Daoming. His figure was encapsulated by wisps of lightning as his robe drifted in the wind, like a great existence that was in charge of all lightning in the world. "Junior brother Qin Nan, I'm sorry," Lei Daoming said calmly. He vanished into thin air and reappeared above Qin Nan. Wisps of red lightning flickered in his hand and formed a hand seal before slamming forward. A destructive aura surged in all directions. Supreme Songlong and the rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes grinned. Lei Daoming was not going easy on Qin Nan this time. He was executing a lightning Dao art with extraordinary power. Mu Jingze and Zhao Li made their moves too. The former drew out his ruler and slammed it at Qin Nan, unleashing a formidable aura. Meanwhile, Zhao Li flicked her finger and summoned illusionary figures of blue immortals around Qin Nan, forming a huge formation. Everyone could tell that Mu Jingze had yet to use his full strength, while Zhao Li had only used half of her strength. "Even so, we'll teach you the consequences of offending our factions." The eyes of Supreme Songlong and the rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes flickered coldly. Dao Jolting Saber Art. Qin Nan executed 2 arts of Dao seeking simultaneously. He slashed forward with the heaven-shattering saber, unleashing formidable saber intents. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. The four figures kept moving back and forth in the light barrier. Even though their auras were sealed off, many peerless rulers could still sense the danger inside the light barrier. They were utterly terrified. This Qin Nan's cultivation has improved so quickly. I didn't expect him to actually achieve the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. Luckily, he only suppressed half of his immortal force. Supreme Songlong and the others murmured. Supreme Chang Xiao and the authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect let out relieved sighs. As such, even if Qin Nan was defeated, it would not be too bad. Lord of all worlds! In the light barrier, Qin Nan performed a hand seal. An illusionary magnificent figure floated behind him with a tremendous aura. Even with the protection of the light barrier, the aura still leaked out. So that's the immortal? The crowd immediately focused their attention on the figure. Supreme Longhe of the heaven-repelling ancient sect, in particular, executed a mysterious eye technique as if he was trying to peek at the figure's true identity. Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li'er immediately felt a great pressure. Lightning of immortal punishment. Lei Daoming let out a low roar, and the void suddenly shattered. Reddish-gold lightning floated out from the crack and coiled around his body. His aura skyrocketed once again. Mu Jingze and Zhao Li'er performed a hand seal. The ruler on the former's waist turned into a long robe wrapping around his figure. Zhao Li'er executed the Sanqing mystical scriptures to split herself into three. Kunwa tree. Lei Daoming flicked his finger. An illusionary ancient tree flew above Qin Nan and spread its branches. In an instant, an enormous pressure came crashing down like waves, shattering many of the saber auras that covered the sky and earth. In addition to it, Qin Nan also felt his body becoming heavier. Every move he made was extremely exhausting. The immortal force in his body had increased by 5 times too. Whoosh! Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li'er's clones attacked Qin Nan once again. They executed a peerless Dao art at the same time. Lei Daoming, in particular, had already executed the scriptures of Sky Taihuang in his body. As he executed the Dao art, it felt like a gap was torn open between the heavens and earth, from which boundless desolation surged out. Qin Nan was placed in a disadvantageous position in the blink of an eye. Supreme Chang Zhao's expression darkened. He tapped his finger on the table. The authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect let out sighs in their hearts. They were well aware that Lei Daoming was not going to show them any mercy. However, there were too many people involved. Even Supreme Chang Xiao could not intervene. Supreme Songlong felt a lot better after seeing this. He looked at Supreme Huanshan and said as a thought crossed his mind, "Cultivator Huanshan, is this what you meant when you said he's unbeatable below the 9 heavens supreme realm? Is it going to be useless no matter how many people we have?" Supreme Chang Xiao and the others thought they were just echoing one another, but Supreme Songlong and the others knew they had never communicated with Supreme Huanshan before. Supreme Huanshan wore a disdainful look. He had no intention of wasting his time on Supreme Songlong. Once Qin Nan unleashed the flower of eternity, these people would realize how ridiculous the duel that they had put in so much effort to set up was. In the universe, the 4 sides are the most respected. Meanwhile, Lei Daoming unleashed a tremendous aura as he threw a punch forward. It felt like a small world had appeared and was crushing down on Qin Nan. The flames in Qin Nan's eyes burned fiercely. He did not summon the white-blue flower, nor did he use the tree of Tao or the divine battle spirit. He simply slashed forward with his saber. The slash was no different than the previous slash, yet an eerie sight took place when the 2 slashes collided. Chapter 1928. An astonishing sight. Following the slash, countless cracks began to appear in the small world. The strength of the punch that Lei Daoming had accumulated was weakened by 5 times. What's going on? Lei Daoming was astounded. The Tao art he had just executed was derived from the scriptures of Sky Tai Huang. It was able to summon the power of a small world to boost his strength to a terrifying level. He did not expect to inflict serious damage on Qin Nan with the move. However, even if Qin Nan's cultivation was extraordinary, he would still need to use some trump cards to defend himself. As I thought. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. He had noticed something when he was fighting the three exceptional geniuses. When the three executed the Tao-seeking arts of the scriptures of Sky Tai Huang, the heavenly illusionary ancient scriptures, and the Sanqing mystical scriptures to execute their Tao arts, he was able to see many flaws in them. Qin Nan pondered for a moment and came up with an answer. Firstly, the power of his immortal eyes of the divine god of battle had improved significantly. Secondly, after he perfected the tree of Tao, he had comprehended the 12 arts of Tao seeking that he had practiced. It did not matter what Tao art Lei Daoming was executing, as long as it was based on the scriptures of Sky Tai Huang, it was basically the same. He was able to see the flaws of Lei Daoming's Tao arts after combining the two. No matter how powerful an art was, as long as he could see the flaws of it, he could easily overcome it if his cultivation was similar to his. Heaven-repairing cauldron. Qin Nan knew the opportunity had come. He flicked his finger and summoned the cauldron. What kind of tree is this? Piss off. Doom's blood-red eyes sprang open as a beastly aura soared into the sky. Giant claws reached out of the cauldron and slapped the kunwa tree with a shocking aura. So Qin Nan has the cauldron. With the help of the cauldron, Qin Nan's strength is going to improve significantly. Some of the 9 heaven supremes and peerless rulers immediately recognized the heaven-repairing cauldron. When they were still human immortals and earth immortals, the heaven-mending cauldron had been a famous artifact among the ancient Tao treasures. Thunder Dragon Prison. Lei Daoming, as a peerless genius who had almost been crowned number 1, was naturally not to be underestimated. He reacted quickly, turned his fist into a palm, and slapped forward. At that instant, the cries of dragons echoed in the hall. One after another, crimson lightning dragons appeared out of thin air. Their auras connected, forming a huge prison that enveloped Qin Nan. Qin Nan's eyes suddenly froze. This lightning dragon prison was no small matter. Not only did it temporarily lock him in place, but it was also brewing an incomparably terrifying killing intent. If he was unable to break free within 100 breaths, he would have no choice but to endure. He's even using this move. The authorities of the Sky Tai Huang sect sighed again. Lei Daoming was born with a pair of lightning eyes. He had fully unleashed the power of the eye technique. It was obvious how significant it was. 3-layer Sky Tai Huang fist. Lei Daoming's aura skyrocketed as he fully unleashed the power of the scriptures of Sky Tai Huang in his body. 3 small worlds appeared behind him and provided him with boundless power. In addition to it, wisps of Tai Huang Qi accumulated in his body, making him look like an ancient god of thunder, shaking the heavens and earth. Friend Qin Nan, watch out! Mu Jingzi yelled. He fully unleashed the power of the heaven illusionary ancient scriptures too. The ruler in his hand turned illusionary as wisps of ancient auras rose continuously in his body. He was incredibly eye-catching at that instant, like a peerless emperor who possessed the greatest power in the heavens and earth. Zhao Li'er blinked her eyes. Even though she was purposely going easy on him, she had no choice but to perform a hand seal as the clones immediately merged into her body. A shocking glow burst out of them. At that instant, the 3 exceptional geniuses became serious. With Lei Daoming in the lead, they pierced through the chaos and slashed at Qin Nan from 3 different directions. How terrifying! The peerless rulers and the rest of the exceptional geniuses gasped. Even a peak peerless ruler would not be able to resist such a strong attack. Crap! The authorities of the Sky Tai Huang sect were startled. Supreme Chang Zhao's eyes dimmed too. Only Supreme Songlong and the 9 Heavens Supremes were grinning. It had been more than 300 breaths since the duel began. The 3 exceptional geniuses were serious for the first time. Even with Qin Nan's cultivation, he would surely be injured. The injury was only the beginning. It would only get worse as time went on, until… Qin Nan, don't waste your time. The flower in your divine sense is the flower of eternity. Nothing can stand against it when it appears. Supreme Huanshan transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. He did not think it was necessary for Qin Nan to waste his time. So the white-blue flower is called the flower of eternity? Qin Nan raised his brows. He did not activate the flower of eternity. It all happened in the blink of an eye. As Lei Daoming and the others were about to land their attacks, Qin Nan's hair drifted in the wind. The magnificent Dao-melting immortal flames burst out of his body and surged in all directions. The lightning dragons that enveloped him began to struggle violently. Crackling sounds could be heard as they were incinerated. The great killing intent that had been silently accumulating was immediately interrupted. Sky stride blow. Qin Nan moved. He suddenly appeared in front of Lei Daoming and the others. Lei Daoming and the others' eyes widened. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Under the crowd's gaze, Qin Nan moved at an unbelievable speed. He left thousands of afterimages in his wake. Thousands of saber intents soared into the sky like rivers. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions took place. A shocking sight took place. The Dao arts that Lei Daoming and the others were executing collapsed like a dam. They were shattered into pieces by the saber intent. How is this possible? The eyes of the peerless rulers and the exceptional geniuses widened. They could not believe it. Even Supreme Chang Shao, Supreme Songlong, and the rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes were in disbelief. They could not believe their eyes. Chapter 1929. The Curse of the Great Emperor, F***K-me. Supreme Huanshan could not help but curse. He initially thought Qin Nan would use the Flower of Eternity to nullify the attack. Even if he did not use the Flower of Eternity, he would use some other powerful move. However, he did not think Qin Nan would be able to nullify the Dao arts of the 3 exceptional geniuses so easily. Among the 10 immortals, the top 4 have already taken a step into the next level, while the 5th immortal is the most special one as the first master of the 9 heavens. Is that why he's so special? Supreme Huanshan collected his thoughts. He squinted. The other 9 heavens supremes collected their thoughts too. They were utterly confused when they recalled the scene. Even Supreme Chang Shao frowned. This kid, how did he do it just now? Forget it, I'll just ask him when the time comes. Supreme Chang Zhao's frown eased. His lips curled into a smile. With the strength that Qin Nan had displayed, it seemed like he would be able to survive the duel in 1,000 breath. Meanwhile, inside the light barrier, among everyone present, Lei Daoming, Mu Jingze, and Zhao Li were undoubtedly the most affected. Their feelings were also the clearest. Just now, they had unleashed hundreds and thousands of powerful Taoist techniques to defeat their enemies. However, it was as if they had lost all their power. They were like clouds of smoke that dissipated with a wave of the hand. Dragon of the Dao-melting, immortal flames. Qin Nan made his move once again. The Dao-melting immortal flames gathered around him and formed the shape of a ferocious dragon. He swung one of his claws at Lei Daoming and the other exceptional geniuses while swinging the other claw at the lightning dragons above him. Lei Daoming and the others felt a great sense of danger. They had no choice but to back away. Not only is his flames comparable to the strongest flame of our tribe, he seems to have learned an impressive way of controlling the flames too. Supreme Zhu Ling of the Nongyan tribe was astounded. A thought crossed his mind too. Either way, he had to warn the people of his clan not to harm Qin Nan if they were below the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm and had yet to master the first flame. Little did Supreme Zhu Ling know, Qin Nan could no longer merge other arts of Dao seeking into the tree of Dao. Once he practiced the Nongyan tribe's art of Dao seeking, the tree of Dao seeking would not be affected. In that case, the ancient prophecy passed down in their clan would definitely come true. Time passed. On the screen of light, the battle continued. Qin Nan and his cauldron had already broken through the lightning dragon imprisonment and the Kunwu tree. On top of that, he had switched from defense to offense by executing a series of killing moves on the three exceptional geniuses. Qin Nan easily nullified their Dao arts, forcing the three exceptional geniuses to back off. Initially, Zhao Li had only used 50% of her strength. Now, she pouted and used 80% of her strength. She even took out two ancient Dao artifacts. Lei Daoming and Mu Jingze were not any better. They both took out their ancient Dao artifact. They were now at a complete disadvantage. 800 breaths have already passed. Lei Daoming and his crew have yet to break through Qin Nan's strange moves. At this rate, not only will Qin Nan not be injured after 1,000 breaths, he will still have the upper hand. The peerless rulers and the exceptional geniuses were startled. All of a sudden, they recalled what Supreme Huanshan had said to them earlier. Did that mean Qin Nan was really unbeatable below the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, the strongest peerless ruler? Supreme Chang Shao was in a great mood. He would occasionally take a sip of the immortal tea in front of him. Supreme Songlong and the rest of the Nine Heavens Supremes wore dark expressions. Some of the Nine Heavens Supremes even crushed the armrests of their chairs. Qin Nan had humiliated them greatly in the realm of the primordial blood. They were not planning to eliminate Qin Nan. They only wanted to teach Qin Nan a lesson. How could they not even do that? Unparalleled lightning eyes, art of great destruction. Lei Daoming's eyes suddenly emitted a brilliant lightning glow. It turned into a giant hand grabbing at Qin Nan. He was not executing a Dao art, but an immortal art that he had combined with his unparalleled lightning eyes. Its strength was close to that of a Dao art. Qin Nan immediately executed the Dao jolting saber art to shatter the giant hand into pieces. Lei Daoming's eyes glittered. He yelled, "Don't use Dao arts, use immortal arts instead." Mu Jingze and Zhao Li immediately came to a realization. They performed different hand seals. Qin Nan continued to unleash saber intent. However, Lei Daoming and his crew clearly sensed that their immortal arts were not as weak as their Dao art. Immortal arts are enough? Everyone realized the same thing too. However, Supreme Songlong and the others did not seem too pleased. Lei Daoming and his crew realized it a little too late. It had been more than 900 breaths since the battle began. They did not have much time left. Besides, immortal arts were not as strong as Dao arts. Even though Lei Daoming and his crew were outnumbered, they were still on par with one another. I shouldn't have agreed to help Supreme Chang Shao. Supreme Songlong and the rest of the Nine Heavens Supremes murmured. If they had 2,000 breaths left, Lei Daoming and his crew might be able to turn the tables around and inflict serious injuries on Qin Nan with the moves that they had prepared beforehand. The battle continued on the light barrier. A series of loud explosions took place. Qin Nan and Lei Daoming and his crew were still fighting one another. As they executed a series of powerful immortal arts, Lei Daoming and his crew were gradually gaining the upper hand. Only 10 breaths left. A peerless ruler blurted out. The authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect let out relieved sighs. The grin on Supreme Chang Zhao's face widened. Humph! Supreme Songlong and the rest of the Nine Heavens Supremes were startled. There was nothing they could do in the last bit of time. The two sides were still on par with one another. Not only did they fail to inflict any damage to Qin Nan, once the news of the duel was made known to the public, Qin Nan's name would be added to the list of legends he had created. However, Supreme Longhe, whose expression had remained unchanged since the start of the battle, suddenly had a glint in his eyes. "Fellow cultivators, thanks for pointing," Qin Nan slashed forward. He gathered all his might and shattered the immortal arts. The three cultivators were knocked a few hundred zhang back before he spoke calmly. Only 2 breaths were left. The duel would come to an end. Qin Nan, it's not over yet, take this. However, before Qin Nan could finish his sentence, Lei Daoming let out a roar. Wisps of black smoke accumulated on his palm and formed a strange seal before he shoved it at Qin Nan. Chapter 1930. The origin of the divine god of battle was exposed. Supreme Chang Zhao's eyes glittered. He crushed the cup in his hand and unleashed a terrifying aura to stop Qin Nan. Cultivator Chang Xiao, the duel isn't over yet. You shouldn't break the rules. Supreme Longhe had long expected this. He let out a faint smile and unleashed a formidable aura to stand in front of Supreme Chang Xiao. In just less than a breath's time, the strange seal that Lei Daoming had unleashed had arrived in front of Qin Nan. Qin Nan reacted quickly. He executed the 2 arts of Tao seeking in his body and slashed at the seal with a shocking saber intent. A strange sight took place. The heaven-shattering saber that was able to slash through everything failed to inflict any damage to the mysterious seal. The seal landed on Qin Nan's chest. Then, an even stranger scene occurred. The magnificent illusionary figure that Qin Nan had summoned with the Lord of all worlds began to sizzle as if it was being burned by some invisible flames. Qin Nan could clearly feel an indescribable strange force disregarding his flesh and divine sense, penetrating his soul and attacking the divine battle spirit. What kind of move is that? Qin Nan was startled. Is that the great curse of the 10 great curses? Supreme Tong Xiao of the Wengu tribe was startled when he saw the origin of the curse. What? The great curse of the great curse? Supreme Songlong and the other 9 heaven supremes were astounded. Even though each of the 10 great ancient curses possessed incredible power, it was not enough to elicit such a reaction from the 9 heavens supremes. However, the great curse of the great curse was the most unique among the 10 great curses. Rumors said that during the era of the 10 immortals, there was a master of Tao with 9 curses, but he was unfortunately killed by one of the immortals in a great battle. The master of Tao was filled with hatred before his death. He burned his soul and turned it into a curse, the great curse of the great curse. This curse only had one ability. Once unleashed, it could cause great harm to the 10 immortals. In the past, someone was fortunate enough to acquire the curse. He used it on the artifacts left behind by the 10 immortals that still possessed outstanding power in the 9 heavens immortal realm. However, the great curse had not appeared in the 9 heavens immortal realm for more than 2,000 years. He did not expect Lei Daoming to master it. Your heaven-repelling ancient sect is really generous. You're giving my disciple the great curse spell. I have to thank you properly. Supreme Chang Zhao's eyes turned cold. Fellow Taoist Chang Xiao, you've misunderstood. Our esteemed sect's little friend Lei has never had any interactions with him. Little friend Lei was able to obtain this technique entirely because of his own good fortune. Supreme Dragon River was unmoved. His smile was still there. Boom! At this time, Qin Nan's body bloomed with dazzling green light, illuminating the entire hall. Clearly, the great curse had begun to take effect. According to an ancient record, when the great curse is used, the heavens will complain and the earth will howl, creating a shocking phenomenon. Lei Daoming's technique hasn't reached that level yet. It's obvious that he's only obtained a portion of the curse, so its power is mediocre. Supreme Tongxiao shook his head. Mediocre? So what? Qin Nan is the successor of the immortals. He has a strong aura of the immortals. The great curse spell is surely going to inflict some damage on him. Supreme Songlong and the other 9 heavens supremes wore a relieved look upon collecting their thoughts. Meanwhile, a terrifying ancient aura burst out of Qin Nan's body and soared into the sky. Even the light barrier that Supreme Chang Xiao had set up could not stop it at all. It surged across the hall and struck the hearts of every cultivator in the hall. Following it, A few thousand wisps of black smoke floated out of Qin Nan's body and dissipated. Qin Nan's aura was not affected at all. The magnificent figure that he summoned with the Lord of all worlds was still as magnificent as before. This Supreme Songlong, the 9 Heavens Supremes, and Lei Daoming were stunned. Supreme Dragon River shared the same expression too. The great curse spell did not work at all? Supreme Huanshan's eyes flickered with disdain once again. The great curse spell might be slightly effective against the 10 immortals, but it was completely useless against Qin Nan. Even a 9 Heavens Supreme would end up with the same result after using the full great curse spell. I once heard that there's a very special existence among the 10 immortals. He's a terrifying forbidden existence in the 9 Heavens immortal realm. The great curse spell won't work on him at all. Which means Qin Nan is the successor of the 5th immortal. Supreme Dragon River gasped. His heart was filled with great astonishment. He was well aware of the significance of the 5th immortal. Soon after, he was incomparably excited. The heaven-repelling ancient sect had paid a huge price this time. It was definitely worth it. Time's up. The duel has come to an end. Fellow cultivators, I believe you are satisfied with the result? Supreme Chang Shao said calmly, breaking the silence in the hall. Cultivator Qin Nan's strength is indeed extraordinary. I'm ashamed of myself after witnessing it today. Congratulations, Cultivator Chang Shao, with Cultivator Qin Nan's talents. His future is surely comparable to Empress Feiyue's. Supreme Songlong and the rest of the 9 Heavens Supremes forced a smile upon collecting their thoughts. Supreme Chang Shao nodded. He looked at Lei Daoming and said expressionlessly, "You may leave for now. You should go and see your master." Lei Daoming's expression shifted slightly. He brought his fists together and left. The crowd knew Supreme Chang Shao and the authorities were going to settle the score after the duel. Cultivator Qin Nan, this is my badge. I hope we can meet again in the 1st immortal realm and have a rematch. Mu Jingzi said. Qin Nan, this is mine. I'll be going to the 1st immortal realm with Tang, that guy. Zhao Lier said. Sure. Qin Nan smiled and received the badge. He could not help but admit that the two were considered the strongest exceptional geniuses of the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect and the Sanqing Ancient sect. He would not be able to handle the situation calmly if it was a real duel. Fellow cultivators, the trouble my disciple has caused has already alerted his master. I'll bring him to confess his sins. I'll let the elders entertain you first. Supreme Chang Shao said. Cultivator Chang Shao is being too courteous. Supreme Songlong and the others wore a fake smile. Confess his sins? Confess my ass. Chapter 1931. Do you know its name? Seniors, you've come a long way. We've specially prepared some immortal brew for you. The elders of the Sky Taihuang sect said. One after another, the disciples entered the hall with jade jars in their hands. The 9 Heavens Supremes began to discuss among themselves. The exceptional geniuses of their factions were still in the Sky Taihuang sect. They could not afford to leave yet. They had to wait until the exceptional geniuses finished cultivating. Supreme Longhe, right? Supreme Huanshan raised his cup and transmitted his voice. If I'm not mistaken, you must have found out which immortal Qin Nan's master is. Supreme Longhe's heart skipped a beat, yet his expression remained the same. He said with a smile, Cultivator Huanshan, we do want to know. Is it possible for you to tell us? Supreme Huanshan twisted his lips and said, Don't give me that crap. Either way, I'll tell you something on behalf of our patriarch. If other factions know Qin Nan is the successor of the 5th immortal, the 14 Supreme Taoism factions will become 13 Supreme Taoism factions. Supreme Longhe withdrew his smile and said, Isn't the Sky Taihuang sect being too unreasonable? If Qin Nan is exposed, are you going to blame us too? Supreme Huanshan grinned. Indeed, you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. Besides, our patriarch has another thing to say. If you dare to do anything before Qin Nan achieves the 9 heavens supreme realm, there will only be 13 supreme Taoism factions left in the 9 heavens immortal realm. That's all I have to say. Farewell. Supreme Huanshan placed the cup down and said goodbye to the elders before vanishing into thin air. Supreme Dragon River stared at Zhang Xian's departing figure. His excitement had cooled down by half, and his eyes turned cold. Meanwhile, in the mysterious third small world of the Sky Taihuang sect, Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat as soon as Supreme Chang Shao brought him here. Beneath their feet was a vast, light purple grassland. At the end of the grassland were many floating courtyards. At the other end of the grassland were many towering mountains that reached into the clouds. Not only that, but every inch of space in the small world was filled with a faint ancient pressure. The aura was similar to the aura of the 3 old men he stumbled into. It was the aura of an authority in the Master Realm that had surpassed the 9 heavens supreme realm. The Sky Taihuang sect does have a Master of Tao too. I believe the other supreme Taoism factions are the same. Qin Nan thought to himself. As his cultivation increased, he came into contact with higher levels. He slowly discovered the foundations of the various supreme Taoism factions and the top 100 factions among the 10,000 ancient tribes. He initially thought 9 heaven supremes were extremely rare, but the truth was, every faction had at least a few dozen of them. Supreme Chang Shao led Qin Nan to a residence. The courtyard was not big, and there were some ancient flowers planted in it. There were also 3 jade chessboards. A black-haired young man was playing chess with Daoist Qianjue, the master of Supreme Chang Shao whom Qin Nan had met once. He was also Qin Nan's grandmaster in name. Qin Nan, you're here. Daoist Qianjue placed the chess piece down and said with a smile, "Allow me to introduce you, this is the previous patriarch of the Sky Taihuang sect, Master Shi Huang. He's also Feiyue's master in name." Qin Nan was startled. He brought his fists together and greeted, "Greetings, Senior Shi Huang." Master Shi Huang waved his hand and said with a calm smile, "Qin Nan, I have 3 things to discuss with you. First, I hope you won't hold a grudge against Lei Daoming. He only did it because he was unwilling to admit defeat." Qin Nan shook his head and said, "Senior, you're being too serious. I'm not that narrow-minded." He was indeed displeased that Lei Daoming had used the Great Bewitching Curse, but the Sky Taihuang sect had treated him well. He would not treat Lei Daoming as his enemy just because of it. Second, we would like you to be the next patriarch. Daoist Qianjue fondled his beard and said, "Chang Shao is about to step down from his position as the patriarch. Fenghua will be taking over the position. We'll have to decide on the next patriarch now." Supreme Chang Shao harumphed and said, "Kid, you shouldn't act so recklessly after becoming the patriarch. Even if you're going to do it, try not to expose yourself." In the 9 heavens immortal realm, it was normal for the exceptional geniuses of different factions to fight one another. It was not rare for exceptional geniuses to be killed. However, Qin Nan had gone overboard this time. He had suppressed so many exceptional geniuses. Qin Nan was startled. He quickly said, "Senior, thank you for your kindness, but I can't take over the position of the patriarch." Master Shi Huang burst out laughing. "Qianjue, what did I say?" He must have made the same choice as Feiyue. Daoist Qianjue's lips twisted slightly. He said, "Qin Nan, don't be so quick to reject it. I know you want to go to the first immortal realm, but it doesn't conflict with taking over the position of the patriarch." He pointed at Supreme Chang Shao and said, "Look at Chang Shao, even though he's the patriarch, he spends most of his time in the first immortal realm. It won't be troublesome." Supreme Chang Shao blushed. He lowered his head and pretended he did not hear it. Qin Nan said with a wry smile, "Senior, you've misunderstood. I'm not suitable to take over the position of the patriarch. Otherwise, it will bring great trouble to the Sky Taihuang sect. He had practiced 12 arts of Tao. Even if he wanted to hide it, he would not be able to hide it for long. It would eventually be exposed to the world. When that happened, the Sky Taihuang sect would be in a difficult position. What trouble can there be, kid? Supreme Chang Shao said in exasperation. However, before he could finish, Heavenly Master Shi Huang waved his hand and said with a thoughtful look, "Does it have anything to do with the exceptional geniuses that you've suppressed?" Qin Nan nodded. Heavenly Master Shi Huang said after a slight ponder, "All right, we'll put it aside for now. We'll talk about it when the time comes." Daoist Qianjue and Supreme Chang Shao wanted to say something, but they immediately shut their mouths after Heavenly Master Shi Huang glanced at them. "Now let's talk about the third thing. According to Feiyue, you're the successor of the fifth immortal, and you have his soul?" Heavenly Master Shi Huang asked. "Indeed." Qin Nan unleashed the divine battle spirit after a slight hesitation. The ancient figure stood in the rift with a blue glow. A terrifying aura surged in all directions like a great storm. Heavenly Master Shi Huang, Daoist Qianjue, and Supreme Chang Shao were astounded. Even though they had already heard about it, they were still startled when they saw it in person. After all, it was not some art of Tao seeking that the 10 immortals had practiced. It was a soul that actually existed. As Qin Nan's cultivation improved, the aura of the soul would grow stronger too. In the end it felt like the fifth immortal had come back to life. Chapter 1932. The Secrets of the Immortal Realms, Part 1. Qin Nan was startled. He took a deep breath and said, "Senior, my cultivation was too weak. Empress Feiyue told me that the divine god of battle was from the 9 heavens immortal realm, so I didn't know much about him. Now that I've achieved the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm, I can barely protect myself in the 9 heavens immortal realm. Senior, I hope you can tell me if you know anything." Qin Nan bowed again. He was currently shrouded in many mysteries. Why did the 7th immortal of the 6 Unity Forbidden Land want? What was the ownerless heaven pattern's background? What was the relationship between the divine god of battle and the beast hide drawing? Who was his past life? In Qin Nan's opinion, he was not in a rush to find the answers to the mysteries. He could slowly uncover the mysteries as his cultivation grew stronger. However, it was a different story when it came to the divine god of battle. The divine god of battle had set up many plans for him from the Kanglan continent to the 9 heavens immortal realm. He had guided him to where he was today. He had done a lot for him. As such, Qin Nan wanted to know everything about the divine god of battle if he had the chance. If the divine god of battle had any last wishes, he would try his best to fulfill them. Master Shi Huang wore a calm smile. He rose to his feet and walked around the courtyard. He said, "In the ancient era, before the great battle broke out, there were many people stronger than the Master Realm. Why are the divine god of battle and the others called the 10 immortals? Why is every immortal's appearance a great influence in the 9 heavens immortal realm? It's because the title of the 10 immortals is related to a secret that even those stronger than the immortals are wary of." The immortal flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Doom in the heaven-repairing cauldron pricked up his ears too. Although Heavenly Master Shi Huang hadn't spoken in detail, there was still a lot of information that had been revealed. The title of the 10 immortals, the existence that surpassed the Master Realm, the mysterious battle. The Shi Huang Heavenly Lord glanced at Qin Nan with a deep look in his eyes. Among these 10 immortals, the battle god was the #1 lord of the 9 heavens back then. He was invincible and the most unique. That's why he's different from the rest of the immortals. The name of the divine god of battle alone is considered a taboo in the 9 heavens immortal realm. Even a peerless ruler would be killed if he mentioned it. However, the current Yu has indeed just grown up and is qualified to know. The war god's name is Xiang Zun. When the last two words were spoken, the entire small realm seemed to be swept up by an invisible storm. The atmosphere in the void suddenly became much more solemn. Qin Nan's figure shuddered slightly. Xiang Zun, he muttered to himself, his expression dazed for a moment. The moment he heard this name, he felt as if something that had been missing for a long time had been made up for. It felt like the time he spent cultivating the Tao scripture of 10 desires and perfecting the tree of Tao. Boom! Suddenly, the divine battle spirit on Qin Nan's back emitted a blue glow and an ancient aura that was a few times stronger than before. The whole residence began to shake vigorously. Every blade of grass, tree, brick, and rock in the residence began to emit a cloudy glow as if they were trying to resist the aura. Master Shi Huang, Daoist Qianjue, and Supreme Chang Shao nodded. As they thought, Qin Nan was going to benefit greatly after learning the name of the divine god of battle. Senior, thanks. A few hundred breaths later, Qin Nan finally collected his thoughts and brought his fists together. His heart was filled with an indescribable sense of satisfaction and joy. Meanwhile, the ownerless heaven pattern in Qin Nan's divine sense shuddered all of a sudden. A tiny fragmented purple-golden crystal floated out of it and flew into the purple-golden crystal in Qin Nan's divine sense. Qin Nan was startled. Why would he react like this after learning the name of the divine god of battle? Qin Nan, did anything change? Or did you remember something? Master Shi Huang's eyes flickered as he asked. Before Qin Nan could speak, Empress Feiyue's icy voice echoed in his mind. The Sky Taihuang sect and the others have been treating you well. I've told them a lot of things about you. However, I only vaguely told them about your past life. The sixth immortal said you were a young master of the sixth immortal's era. Your real past life is too complicated. It's not wise to tell them about it. Otherwise, it might bring you too much trouble. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization. He shook his head at Master Shi Huang and said, Senior, not for now. Master Shi Huang nodded slightly. Qin Nan, I've told you about the immortals and the divine god of battle. I just want to remind you not to expose the existence of the divine battle spirit before you achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. Qin Nan frowned and said, Senior, there's something I don't understand. What are the secrets of the immortals and the uniqueness of the divine god of battle? Old Taoist Qianjue smiled and said, Qin Nan, there are some things that you won't understand even if I tell you now. You will have to discover them yourself in the first immortal realm. Doom inside the heaven-repairing cauldron rolled his eyes. Now that it heard this, it understood one thing, not to mention anything else. Apart from the fact that Qin Nan had practiced 12 Tao arts simultaneously, his identity as the successor of the immortals was a great threat too. He could easily tell that even if Qin Nan had achieved the 9 heavens supreme realm, Qin Nan would still be in great danger if his identity as the successor of the divine god of battle was exposed. Qin Nan, those are the 3 things I want to tell you. Qianjue and Chang Shao will talk to you about the rest. I'll be leaving first. Master Shi Huang patted Qin Nan on the shoulder and said with a calm smile, Your journey is going to be tougher than most exceptional geniuses. I hope we can meet again in the first immortal realm. After he finished speaking, his figure disappeared from the spot. You're pretty impressive, kid. Even when I became the patriarch of the Sky Taihuang sect, Senior Shi Huang didn't talk to me that much. Supreme Chang Shao teased. He sat down and said sternly, Are you planning to head to the first immortal realm? Qin Nan nodded. The first immortal realm is the strongest among the 33 small immortal realms. Even the top 9 small immortal realms combined are no match for it. Many people are interested in it. Supreme Chang Shao said, however, you haven't been in the 9 heavens immortal realm for long. I believe you don't know much about it and the rest of the 9 heavens immortal realm. Chapter 1933. The Secrets of the Immortal Realm, Part 2. Daoist Qianjue was drinking his tea with a smile. "Thank you, Senior," Qin Nan said. Currently, the 13-14 Supreme Taoism factions, and the 100 ancient tribes of the second and third small immortal realms have established their roots in the first immortal realm. In addition to it, every peerless ruler, 9 heavens supreme, or even masters of Tao like Senior Shi Huang would visit the first immortal realm frequently. Supreme Chang Shao said. Qin Nan was startled. If that was the case, the number of experts and factions in the first immortal realm would be a lot more complicated. Why is that? Qin Nan was confused. Kid, you should know how difficult it is to rank up in each cultivation level. It requires a lot of attention and fortunate encounters. Even though you can ascend as an immortal and become a peerless ruler in the small immortal realms, Supreme Chang Shao explained. However, only in the first immortal realm can you find the fortunate encounters to become a 9 heavens supreme, or achieve the master realm. Supreme Chang Zhao's eyes flickered with astonishment as he spoke. Normally, he would be the patriarch for at least 100 years, yet he had been stuck in the peak 9 heavens supreme realm for too long. Soon, he would enter the first immortal realm to find the fortunate encounters to achieve the master realm. In the 9 heavens immortal realm, peerless rulers were considered authorities and 9 heavens supremes. They were respected by many. However, only those who achieved the master realm could shake the world. Besides, there are many ancient and powerful factions in the first immortal realm. They are stronger than the Supreme Taoism factions and the ancient tribes. Supreme Chang Shao paused for a moment. He switched the topic when he saw Qin Nan staring at him. It's too complicated. You can find out for yourself after you go to the first immortal realm. Qin Nan's lips twisted. What difference did it make if he didn't say anything? You stinking brat, scram to the side. Stop spouting nonsense here. Daoist Qianjue glared at Supreme Chang Shao and said, Qin Nan, you can take your time to learn more about the first immortal realm. There's no rush. However, there are some forces that you must pay attention to. Qin Nan cupped his hands and said, Senior, please enlighten me. Daoist Qianjue said seriously, the news that you are the successor of the immortals has spread across the immortal region. The ancient taboo of the first immortal realm will surely hunt you down. You should know it too. On top of that, the heaven-repelling ancient sect, the Wengu tribe of the 100 primordial tribes, and the Sherdao tribe, one of the 3 great primordial tribes. The people of the Mumen sect in the first immortal realm should be extra careful too. Seeing the confused look on Qin Nan's face, Daoist Qianjue explained, every faction and every expert has their own goals. These factions are particularly interested in the immortals and have their own plans. The people of the Mumen sect and the Wengu tribe are fine, but the other 3 factions will surely make their moves after you go to the first immortal realm. Qin Nan nodded. Doom felt a sharp pain in his fangs. A few formidable factions had already set their eyes on him before he even went to the first immortal realm. That's all I have to say. You should stay in the sect for a few days. Stay in the sect for the time being and remember one thing. The Sky Tai Huang sect won't hesitate to help you if it's something we can handle. Daoist Qianjue's gaze deepened, as if he could see through everything in the world. I'll remember what you've done for me. I'll never forget it. Qin Nan said sternly. I hope you'll still be so kind when you're stronger. Supreme Chang Shao rolled his eyes and said, Take this badge. Even though our faction isn't strong in the first immortal realm, we still have a lot of experts. They might be able to save your life. Qin Nan received the badge and followed Supreme Chang Shao back to the realm of Tai Huang. Qin Nan immediately transmitted his voice to Envoy Feng Hua when he visited his palace for the first time. Either way, he was still a disciple of the Sky Tai Huang sect. He could not possibly be clueless about the geniuses, elders, and some other special places in the sect. Meanwhile, the Heaven-Slaying sect, the 14th Supreme Taoism faction in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, a headless man walked out of the rift and brought his fists together at the beast-hide drawing. He said in a deep voice, "Patriarch, according to our investigation, the ancient taboo, Sherdao tribe, and heaven-repelling ancient sect are preparing for it. It's obvious that they are confident that Qin Nan will be heading to the first immortal realm soon." The beast-hide drawing's eyes turned cold as a terrifying aura burst out of his body. "Those impudent scum of the heaven-repelling ancient sect dare to disregard me." The headless man said, "Patriarch, should we? That won't be necessary." The beast-hide drawing said coldly, "Our heaven-slaying sect has been keeping a low profile lately. There's no need to resort to petty tricks. Tell the demon that I want the head of a master of Tao from the heaven-repelling ancient sect within 10 days. Acknowledged. The beast-hide drawing said after a slight ponder, "Since Qin Nan achieved the peerless ruler realm, did anything happen to the undying cycle mountain in the first immortal realm?" The headless man said, "Nothing for now." The beast-hide drawing frowned. Something did not feel right. He had already probed the place with his art. The person must still be in the undying cycle mountain. He should have sensed something when Qin Nan achieved the peerless ruler realm. It would appear that that person also deeply detested the young master from back then. The beast-hide drawing wore a disdainful grin. That was great. In his plan, he would protect Qin Nan for the time being. Once Qin Nan achieved the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, he would take away the flower of eternity and cripple Qin Nan's cultivation. He would imprison him in the heaven-slaying sect. He would be reluctant to kill Qin Nan. He would bring Qin Nan to the undying cycle mountain so he could enjoy the scenery. Perhaps his brother's soul and aura would come in handy too. The only thing he was worried about was the person taking Qin Nan's side. If that was the case, he would be placed in a difficult position. The sixth immortal was well aware of the first immortal's strength. Spread the word, tell the others to carry out the plan in the first immortal realm so Qin Nan can find the opportunity to achieve the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm as soon as possible. Also, tell Supreme South World and Wu Shen to prepare themselves. Once he enters the first immortal realm, I want you to protect him secretly. Don't let anything happen to him." The beast-hide drawing vanished into thin air after finishing the sentence. Chapter 1934. Sacred Ocean Realm. 3 days later, in the Shangxingtian's small immortal realm, Qin Nan transmitted his thoughts to Envoy Feng Hua and Supreme Chang Shao. He assumed the appearance of a scholar and boarded the realm-crossing immortal vessel that he had arranged beforehand. The realm-crossing immortal vessel was different than the others. It was over 1,000 zhang long, blue in color and emitting a Tao glow. There were a few wisps of Nine Heavens Supreme intense deep inside it, each emitting a shocking aura. Even a peerless ruler in the early stage would struggle to damage it. After all, the first immortal realm was located in the easternmost part of the Nine Heavens immortal realm. It was extremely far away from the Nine Heavens immortal realm, and the journey was extremely dangerous. It required a powerful immortal vessel to reach it. That being said, if a person's cultivation had reached the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, they would be able to travel across the small immortal realms with their Nine Heavens Supreme Force. Qin Nan was assigned the best room on the vessel. It was made of godly spirit wood, and was able to isolate Qin Nan's divine sense and eye technique. As such, he did not have to worry about being exposed. He sat down with his legs crossed and began to cultivate as soon as the vessel set off. He was planning to inform Mu Jingze, Zhao Li'er, and Wu Huixing that he was heading to the first immortal realm, but Envoy Feng Hua did not allow it. He had no choice but to leave it be. Time gradually passed. 5 days later, an immortal vessel suddenly unleashed a formidable aura in the boundless dark rift in the distance. It forcibly broke through an invisible barrier. Following it, the sound of rolling waves echoed in the ears of every cultivator on the vessel. Even Qin Nan, who was in his room, heard it clearly. Immortal eyes of the divine god of battle activate. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open. 2 white flames burst out of them. In front of the immortal ship was a light golden ocean with no end in sight. There seemed to be a mysterious force pushing it, causing the ocean to roll continuously with a shocking aura that made one's heart tremble. Fellow cultivators, this is the sacred ocean realm. According to the rules that have been established for many years, we can't cross it with brute force. You have to rely on yourselves. Once you cross the ocean, you will arrive at the border of the first immortal realm. The Peak Heaven Immortal in charge of steering the vessel said. What? Do we have to cross the sea ourselves? We paid so many immortal stones, but in the end we still have to rely on ourselves? Many heavenly immortals on the ship were dissatisfied. The aura of the Saint's sea domain was so shocking that it was obviously extraordinary. If they tried to cross it by force, they might encounter danger. The 2 peerless rulers on the boat did not say a word. They flew into the distance. The other heaven immortals had no choice but to withhold their displeasure and leave. When a cultivator at the peak of the heaven immortal realm saw this, he pushed open the door and cupped his hand. Senior brother Qin Nan, with your cultivation, it's not a problem for you to cross the sea. But if you discover a gray sea storm, you must remember to fly to a nearby island. Don't resist it head-on. The 3 Peak Heaven immortal cultivators on the ship were all trusted subordinates of Envoy Feng Hua. Naturally, they knew Qin Nan's identity. All right, thanks a lot. Qin Nan cupped his hands, and his figure turned into a long rainbow, disappearing into the clouds. This sacred sea domain is indeed a little mysterious. Every drop of seawater contains an invisible will. Even my eye technique can only see 1,000 feet under the sea. Qin Nan murmured after observing the sea for a while. He transmitted his voice to the heaven-repairing cauldron as a sudden thought crossed his mind. Doom, have you been to the first immortal realm before? Doom said impatiently, I have been here before, but I've only stayed at the border. I don't know much about the first immortal realm. I don't know anything about it. There was no way he would tell Qin Nan that he and the other primordial evils were extremely smug when they first came to the first immortal realm. They would kill anyone they stumbled into. In just 4 days, they had offended a 9 Heavens Supreme and were almost beaten to death. He was traumatized by the first immortal realm. He had never set foot in the first immortal realm since then. Qin Nan shrugged. He did not ask any further. Qin Nan stumbled into many sea beasts along the way. Most of them were in the earth immortal realm, the heaven immortal realm, and some were even in the peerless ruler realm. On top of that, they did not have any intelligence. They only knew how to kill. In addition to it, the weather of the Saint's sea domain was unpredictable too. It might be sunny a moment ago, but the next moment, the sky was pitch black with rumbling thunder. Qin Nan finally understood why the Blood-Eye Earth Immortal mentioned that only peerless rulers would venture into the first immortal realm, apart from the cultivators that were born and raised in the first immortal realm. Ordinary Peak Heaven Immortals had a great chance of dying in the first immortal realm. On top of that, there were islands of various shapes and sizes in the Saint Sea domain. Some of the islands even had palaces with many cultivators. All of a sudden, Qin Nan came to a stop on the wave. Just now, he had a very strange feeling in his heart. Is that a gray storm? Qin Nan waited for a few moments. He saw countless gray wind blades gathering at the edge of his vision and forming a magnificent storm. It seemed to have sealed off the path ahead. However, to his surprise, even though the storm was moving forward at a slow pace, he could feel a strong pressure coming from it, making him feel uneasy. It's already so strong when it's so far away. I'm afraid I'll have to put in some effort to resist it if I stumble into it. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. He continued to fly forward. Is that an island? A moment later, he suddenly saw an island that looked like a black tortoise standing in the middle of the raging wave. It was not affected by the waves at all. On the island, there were no less than 100 cultivators, and from time to time, there would be cultivators flying over from afar in the form of startling rainbows. Forget it, I'll land on the island and take a look. Qin Nan pondered for a moment before flying to a dojo on the island. As soon as he landed, a cultivator came from the distance and said impatiently, "You can stay on the island for 3 days if you pay 100,000 immortal stones." Qin Nan frowned. Did he have to pay immortal stones? Besides, 100,000 immortal stones was not a small sum either. Even the realm-crossing immortal ship to the first immortal realm only cost 50,000 immortal stones per person. Before Qin Nan could speak, a yell appeared beside him. "This island doesn't belong to anyone. What right do you have to collect immortal stones here?" Chapter 1935. Forced crossing. In front of the middle-aged scholar was a cultivator in a long blue robe. His cultivation was only in the 5th layer heaven immortal realm. The cultivator in a blue robe was not bothered by the middle-aged scholar's question. He wore a cold grin and said, "My patience is limited. You only have 5 breaths' time to consider." The middle-aged scholar waved his hand and said firmly, "I don't need 5 breaths' time. There's no way I'm giving you 100,000 immortal stones." Before the cultivator in a blue robe could speak, a loud voice came from the distance, "Cultivator, please calm down, let's talk things over." A middle-aged man in golden armor with a scar in the shape of a centipede on his cheek stepped out of the void. He was emitting an iron-blooded aura and an invisible pressure from his body. He was a peerless ruler in the early stage. "Greetings, Island Master." The cultivator in a blue robe and the cultivator in front of Qin Nan immediately dropped to their knees and brought their fists together. The middle-aged scholar's expression sank. Was he trying to force the deal? "Cultivator, please don't misunderstand, this island isn't without an owner. It's mine. Of course, I didn't claim it by force, but it was sealed by the mystical ruins," the island master said with a calm smile. "It's your first time in the first immortal realm, so you might not know, but the mystical ruins are one of the strongest factions at the edge of the first immortal realm. The sacred ocean realm is under their control too. On top of that, the mystical ruins have sealed many islands. Both heaven immortals and peerless rulers have to follow the rules set by the island master if they want to set foot on the island. Otherwise, it's considered disrespectful to the mystical ruins." The island master pointed in a direction. The middle-aged scholar and Qin Nan looked in the direction he was pointing at. A figure with an overwhelming aura was standing on the street in the distance. He was a peerless ruler in the greater success stage. "Therefore, cultivator, 100,000 immortal stones is the rule I set. I hope you can understand." The island master brought his fists together with a gentle look. "So that's how it is. Then I was mistaken earlier. I hope that island master and fellow Taoist can forgive me. I will pay the immortal stones right now." The middle-aged scholar looked ashamed as he took out a storage bag. "Fellow Taoist, you've misunderstood again. If it's done by my disciples, 100,000 immortal stones would be enough. However, if it's done by me, it'll be 200,000 immortal stones." The island master was still smiling. The blue-robed cultivator and the cultivator in front of Qin Nan wore disdainful looks. Many cultivators on the streets in the distance shook their heads when they saw the situation. Although this island master appeared to be kind, he was actually very sinister. Many of them had also suffered a great loss just now. 200,000 immortal stones? The middle-aged scholar's expression went grim. He was an independent cultivator and disdained to burn, kill, and plunder, so 200,000 immortal stones was already his entire fortune. "Well, I just thought about it. 200,000 is still too cheap. Now I want 300,000. The smile on the island master's face grew wider. You You are clearly taking advantage of your power to bully others. The middle-aged scholar's face turned ashen. No, no, no. The island master waved his hand and said, I'm not taking advantage of my power. I'm the master of this island. I can set the rules however I want. It's perfectly reasonable. Oh, by the way, it'll be 400,000 immortal stones now. If you don't have enough immortal stones, you can pay with other treasures. That being said, if you're still unwilling to pay, I'll have to ask you to leave the island and face the soul-devouring storm. The middle-aged scholar's eyes widened. He lifted his gaze. In their line of sight, the gray storm that connected the sea and the sky was like countless ancient beasts surging over. It was already very close to the location of the island, and its momentum was monstrous, making people feel small and insignificant in their hearts. The middle-aged scholar's face turned a lot paler. Even though it was his first time in the first immortal realm, he had heard about the power of the soul-devouring storm. Some peerless rulers in the early stage, or even in the greater success stage, had died in the end when they tried to resist it. Besides, he was only in the 8th layer heaven immortal realm. The island master did not say anything further after seeing his reaction. He turned to Qin Nan and said with a smile, Cultivator, you haven't paid the immortal stones yet, right? Since you didn't cause any trouble, you only need to pay 390,000 Jujio and 1,900 immortal stones. Qin Nan wore a cold look. He was not fond of people who took advantage of their power to bully others. That being said, he was only displeased. He would not do anything to the man. After all, the island master was the master of the island. It was still within the rules even if he asked for 1,000,000 immortal stones. The middle-aged scholar shuddered. Regardless of how unwilling he was, he had no choice but to hand over all the immortal stones and the 2 treasures he had on him. It was more important to stay alive under the circumstances. Cultivator, it's fate that brought us together. You won't have to pay the immortal stones. I'll bring you through the soul-devouring storm, Qin Nan said with a calm smile. He was quite fond of the middle-aged scholar's personality. However, as soon as he said those words, the island lord was stunned, the middle-aged scholar was stunned, and the cultivators on the street in the distance all looked over at the same time with stunned expressions. A few moments later, a great burst of laughter took place. Ha ha ha! What did that cultivator just say? He's going to cross the soul-devouring storm? How naive of him! Even a peak peerless ruler would only have a 50% chance of crossing the soul-devouring storm with brute force, let alone bringing someone with him. TSK, how many corpses has the soul-devouring storm devoured? Why are there still so many people dying every year? The cultivators on the street all had mocking looks in their eyes. The middle-aged scholar collected his thoughts and blurted out, Cultivator, the soul-devouring storm. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the island master. The island master did not conceal his disdain at all as he said, If you can bring this person across the soul-devouring storm, I'll give you 1,000,000 immortal stones. Qin Nan raised his brows and said, Are you serious? The island master placed his hands behind him and said with a smile, I'm the island master, of course I'm serious about my words. However, if you regret it later and want to seek refuge on the island, you will have to pay 1,000,000 immortal stones each. Sure. Qin Nan could not be bothered to waste his time. With a flicker, he grabbed the middle-aged scholar and flew toward the soul-devouring storm. From afar, it looked like a little boat trying to break through the ocean. The difference between the two was quite obvious. On the island, the master of the island and the cultivators on the street were stunned once again. Chapter 1936. Inside the storm, haha, fellow cultivators, just you wait, these two will not dare to go any further once they get close to the soul-devouring storm. They will return to the island. The island master burst out laughing. Many cultivators agreed with him. Even though the island master was a bully and demanded a ridiculous price, it was not as important as their lives. Under the crowd's gaze, the two were approaching the soul-devouring storm at a shocking pace. They're close. Many cultivators fixed their eyes on them. Even the peerless rulers fixed their eyes on them. It's over, the middle-aged scholar stared at the endless gray wind blades. His face turned pale as he sensed the terrifying power within them. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. He had only heard rumors about it before, but he finally realized how terrifying the gray storm was after going closer. With his cultivation, he would most likely be shredded into a mist of blood in less than 30 breaths, let alone crossing it. Bang! At that instant, a tremendous aura burst out of Qin Nan's body and surged in all directions. Dragon of the Tao-melting immortal flames. Qin Nan's figure was engulfed in white flames, which encapsulated his figure and the middle-aged scholar's figure, before they dashed into the terrifying storm like an ancient dragon. Bang bang bang! Densely packed explosions immediately rang out. However, no matter how powerful the wind blades were, they were quickly burned into nothingness after colliding with the flames. Peerless! Ruler? The middle-aged scholar was astounded when he sensed the temperature. The greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm? That skinny scholar is an authority? In addition to him, the master of the island and the cultivators on the island were dumbfounded. Even though they did not judge a book by its cover, Qin Nan's presence was too insignificant. He did not look like an expert at all. Besides, even though the island master was appointed by the mystical ruins to set the price as he pleased, a peerless ruler in the greater success stage could simply ignore him and not pay a single immortal stone. The island master did not dare to offend him. No wonder he dares to go into the soul-devouring storm. Many cultivators exclaimed. They had underestimated Qin Nan's strength. Humph, so what if he's a peerless ruler in the greater success stage? The soul-devouring storm has already devoured many peerless rulers in the greater success stage. The island master murmured with a dark expression. At the same time, he was hoping that Qin Nan would overestimate himself and underestimate the soul-devouring storm, allowing him to charge forward recklessly. Once he reached the center of the storm, it would be impossible for him to escape. Bang bang bang! The terrifying soul-devouring storm continued to sweep forward, and soon, the island was swallowed by it. The island master was Qin Nan, the island peerless storm. The cultivators on the island were not affected at all except for the impact of the huge aura. They all raised their heads and looked forward. They had heard many stories about peerless rulers in the greater success stage barging into the soul-devouring storm, yet they had never seen it before. They would not miss out on the opportunity. Besides, if they were lucky enough, they might be able to find the remains of some peerless rulers in the greater success stage or some broken Tao weapons after the storm came to an end. Battle Tao Immortal Manuscript. Sanqing Mystical Scriptures. Qin Nan executed the two arts of Tao seeking simultaneously. Tao glows flickered as wisps of saber intense burst out of his body and formed an enormous saber domain to nullify the wind blades. However, as Qin Nan moved forward, he was getting closer to the center of the storm. Not only did the wind blades increase in number, they were growing stronger too. Every time he unleashed his saber domain, it would be destroyed in less than 2 breaths. Even the Tao-melting immortal flames were unable to melt it rapidly. He's no ordinary peerless ruler in the greater success stage, but the soul-devouring storm is just too strong. He won't go to the center of the storm. He will come back right away instead of getting himself killed. A peerless ruler on the island said. The other cultivators nodded in agreement. Even so, no one dared to mock the man. They could only look up to an extraordinary peerless ruler in the greater success stage, even if he decided to back out of the fight. The island master's expression was unsettled and constantly changing. Slash. Qin Nan's right arm suddenly exploded and turned into the heaven-shattering saber. The immortal force in his body surged as he slashed forward with a brilliant saber glow. It was eye-catching even in the dim sky. Whoosh! A huge gap was forcibly torn open in front of Qin Nan. Qin Nan went straight to the center of the storm without any hesitation. The cultivators on the island were startled. The peerless rulers could not believe their eyes. Many peerless rulers in the greater success stage had died to the soul-devouring storm not only because they were overconfident, but also because there were no islands nearby. They had no choice but to take it head-on. However, the man could have returned to the island. Why did he insist on getting himself killed? Ha ha, you're really full of yourself. I can't wait to see how you're going to die. The island master could not help but burst out laughing. The center of the storm is indeed incomparable to the periphery. It's fine too, the wind blades covering the periphery are hindering my presence. I can try the power of the tree of Tao. Qin Nan's hair drifted in the wind as he sensed the destructive force of the storm. He knocked the middle-aged scholar out with a slap. Tree of Tao, unleash! Qin Nan let out a roar. A brilliant glow burst out from his back as a towering tree sprang into the sky, shattering the rift within a few thousand li into pieces. An indescribable terrifying force burst out of it. Bang! A shocking explosion took place in the sky as if it had just received a great blow. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The towering tree suppressed the mysterious force at the core of the formation. The hundreds of thousands of wind blades did not dare to approach the tree at all. All of them went around the tree. The cultivators on the island only saw a blinding light at the center of the storm. It was unaffected by the force. They had no idea what Qin Nan had done. Even so, the peerless rulers immediately rose to their feet upon seeing this. The island master and the rest of the cultivators were astounded. Chapter 1937. Mystical Ruins. The spacious island fell into a dead silence. Every cultivator's mind was greatly impacted. The skinny scholar must be an exceptional genius of some formidable faction to be able to remain standing at the center of the soul-devouring storm. A peerless ruler exclaimed after collecting his thoughts. Only an exceptional genius in the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm was able to do it. An exceptional genius? The island master's heart skipped a beat. He might be intimidated by an ordinary peerless ruler in the greater success stage, but he was not afraid of them, as he had some connections in the mystical ruins. However, an exceptional genius in the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm was not someone he could afford to offend. His forehead was covered in cold sweat when he recalled what he had just said. Roar! Right at this moment, an earth-shattering roar exploded above the core. Countless gray wind blades gathered together under the push of a mysterious force. Soon, they formed a huge gray dragon that was 100,000 feet long. The enormous dragon had a ferocious appearance with bloodshot eyes. It stared at Qin Nan coldly while unleashing a formidable aura of destruction. Even the people on the island could sense it clearly. Qin Nan was astounded. Where did the dragon come from? A soul-devouring dragon. A soul-devouring dragon of destruction has appeared. A peerless ruler on the island blurted out in astonishment. Countless soul-devouring storms would appear in the sacred ocean realm every day. Among them, 1 or 2 storms would give birth to a soul-devouring dragon due to the sudden change of power. Besides, each of the soul-devouring dragons possessed the cultivation of the peak peerless ruler realm, especially when they were further strengthened by the countless gray wind blades. Even a peak peerless ruler realm cultivator would struggle against them. Roar! 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 3 shocking roars could be heard all of a sudden. Above the center of the storm, countless gray wind blades gathered together and formed 3 enormous gray dragons. At this moment, 4 giant gray dragons were floating above the core area. Their eyes were cold, and their destructive auras seemed to have formed another storm in the midst of the storm. Four of them? The island master and the cultivators at the scene were shocked, and their bodies began to tremble slightly. Even the peerless rulers wore pale faces. 4 soul-devouring dragons. Only an exceptional genius in the peak peerless ruler realm or a 9 heavens supreme could possibly stand a chance against them. The man is in danger. A peerless ruler gasped. Well. The island master came to his senses and was overjoyed. He said good 3 times in a row in his heart. He did not expect the man to stumble into 4 soul-devouring dragons of destruction, which only happened once every year. Therefore, even if this person was a peerless genius with powerful techniques, he would not be able to escape death in the end. Even if he was lucky enough to survive, he would definitely be heavily injured and on the verge of death. This might be an opportunity for me. The island master's eyes flickered as a sudden thought crossed his mind. An exceptional genius would surely have a lot of good stuff. If he could find a chance to ambush the man when he was seriously injured, it would be interesting. Qin Nan's face showed no sign of fear. His lips curled upward instead. The branches and leaves of the tree of Tao floating in the air began to dance despite the absence of wind. A formidable force burst out of it. The 4 enormous gray dragons roared into the sky and swung their claws forward. Bang, bang, bang! A terrifying gust surged in all directions, shattering the gray wind blades into pieces. Despite the strength of the 4 enormous gray dragons, they were still no match against the destructive force of the tree of Tao. Their heads were shattered into pieces in just 5 breaths' time. The huge dragon body was now in tatters, with countless wounds on its body. However, countless gray wind blades surged at them once again, restoring their figures to their original size. Their eyes flickered coldly. The soul-devouring storm can keep providing them with energy. Forget it, it's pointless to keep fighting like this. Qin Nan withdrew the tree of Tao and unleashed the white-blue flower. It floated forward. Even though the 4 enormous gray dragons did not possess any intelligence, they were quite intelligent too. Their eyes flickered with disdain when they saw the flower that was not even as big as their scales floating toward them. Whoosh! One of the enormous gray dragons swung its claw at Qin Nan. The other 3 enormous gray dragons waved their tails and split up to attack Qin Nan from 3 different directions. The man's cultivation was quite impressive. However, a shocking sight took place. A strong aura burst out of the flower of eternity, causing the 4 enormous gray dragons to stiffen. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Before they could understand what was happening, their bodies began to shatter into pieces and dissipate into thin air. On top of it, the force of the soul-devouring storm did not appear again. They did not recover either. In addition to it, the enormous soul-devouring storm began to become unstable too. Qin Nan immediately withdrew the flower of eternity. The flower's power was simply too imperious. If it continued to stand in the sky, the soul-devouring storm would most likely be destroyed. It would be too shocking if that happened. After all, even a 9 heavens supreme in the early stage would have to use all his strength to achieve such a feat. That's it? The peerless rulers, the island master, and the cultivators stared with wide eyes. It felt like their souls were struck by lightning. That was a total of 4 soul-devouring destruction dragons. The skinny scholar was only a peerless ruler in the greater success stage, yet he was able to defeat them all? Most importantly, the whole process had only taken him less than 50 breaths. It was as easy as blowing away dust. The island fell silent once again. The earth-shattering storm continued to wreak havoc forward. A few moments later, the storm swept past the island and continued to move forward. Qin Nan successfully withstood the storm too. He slowly made his way to the island under the crowd's gaze. "Island Master, isn't it time for you to fulfill your promise?" Qin Nan said calmly. "Lord Supreme, please forgive me." Just now, this little one had eyes but failed to see, eyes but failed to see. The island master's face turned pale. He quickly bowed and apologized. The other cultivators looked at Qin Nan with great respect too. It was obvious that they had assumed Qin Nan was a Nine Heavens Supreme. Qin Nan only revealed his cultivation in the greater success stage of the Peerless Ruler realm to keep a low profile. You didn't offend me, why would you ask for forgiveness? Chapter 1938. Phoenix Blaze Path. The island master was startled. He initially thought Qin Nan was going to punish him immediately, yet he did not expect Qin Nan to say something like that. Qin Nan said when he did not answer the question, "Can't I?" The island master collected his thoughts and blurted out, "Of course. Senior, is this your first time in the First Immortal Realm? I don't know much about the rest of the First Immortal Realm, but I'm quite familiar with the border. The border of the First Immortal Realm is extremely spacious. It's half the size of the other small immortal realms. It has countless cities and forbidden ground. Many factions in the other small immortal realms have established their bases there too, with many experts. It's quite complicated. On top of that, the most eye-catching factions are the Mystical Ruins, the Phoenix Blaze Path, the Immortal Returning Sect, the Thousand Demon Sect, and the Luoying Ancient Temple. Each faction has a Nine Heavens Supreme. Even though their resources are not comparable to the 14 Supreme Taoism factions, the difference isn't too huge. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. He was already mentally prepared for the First Immortal Realm, yet he did not expect a place at the edge of the First Immortal Realm to be so extraordinary. "Tell me everything you know," Qin Nan said. He could use the opportunity to learn more about the First Immortal Realm. "Sure. The border of the First Immortal Realm isn't anything special the island master answered honestly. However, before he could finish speaking, a hurried sound of breaking through the air rang out. A long spear that was over 30 feet long, and its entire body was wrapped in black flames. It carried a majestic force as it shot towards the island. Many cultivators were startled as a sense of danger rose in their hearts. The spear was extremely powerful. It was not something that heaven immortals like them could stand a chance against. Qin Nan raised his brows. He waved his left hand and shattered the spear into pieces with a magnificent saber intent. Following it, a beastly roar came from ahead. A few ripples appeared in the rift. An ancient ship over 10,000 zhang long, covered in fiery red runes and emitting wisps of Tao glow, slowly floated out of the ripples. A tall sail with a faint golden phoenix engraved on it was extremely dazzling. Qin Nan looked up. The ancient ship was an ancient Tao artifact with an artifact spirit. It was very valuable. There were a total of 36 cultivators on the ship. Most of them were around the 7th or 8th level of the Heaven Immortal Realm. Among the 5 people standing on the boat, 4 were peerless rulers, and 2 had even achieved the greater success stage of the Peerless Ruler realm. The last person was a young man. Even though his cultivation was only at the peak Earth Immortal Realm, the armor he was wearing was an ancient Tao weapon with a wisp of the will of a Nine Heavens Supreme inside it. It was obvious that he had an extraordinary background. "This is Zhang Yuanrong of the Phoenix Blaze Path?" The expression of the island master changed instantly. The cultivators on the island who had been to the First Immortal Realm, including the peerless rulers, wore twisted expressions. Who is he?" Qin Nan asked. "Senior, you might not know this, but the Phoenix Blaze Path has always been at odds with the mystical ruins. As a result, the disciples of the Phoenix Blaze Path would often form fleets to rob and kill our island. This Zhang Yuanrong is the 3rd son of the Phoenix Blaze Path's patriarch. Even though he isn't very talented in cultivation and isn't favored by the Phoenix Blaze Path's patriarch, his status is rather honorable. Therefore, he always acts arrogantly and bullies others. He's infamous in the borderlands. the island master blurted out with a bitter heart. There was no way he would have a good ending if he stumbled into the young master. Qin Nan glanced at the man. How dare he accuse others of bullying others? Soon, the ancient boat stopped above the island. The young man with the name Zhang Yuanrong glanced down at the crowd and grinned. Yo, there are quite a lot of people here. Who's the owner of the island? Show yourself. The island master quickly went up to the ship and forced a smile. Young Master Zhang, I'm the island master. Before he could finish, a peerless ruler in the greater success stage beside Zhang Yuanrong immediately dashed forward and slapped the island master in the face without mercy. Puh! The island master was knocked a few steps back. The right side of his face was swollen. The island master's eyes flickered with anger. Either way, he was still a peerless ruler. He had his own pride too. What about me? Are you not convinced? Zhang Yuanrong did not seem to be bothered. His eyes flickered with disdain. No, young Master Zhang, feel free to tell me what you want. The island master lowered his head and said. If anyone took a closer look, they would notice blue veins surfacing on his forehead. His eyes were icy. In the martial world, the strong preyed on the weak. It was even more obvious in the first immortal realm. The reason being that the first immortal realm had the most expert. A peerless ruler might be able to dominate a place in other small immortal realms, but they could only barely protect themselves here. Besides, people like the Island Master and the Heaven Immortals had come here to accumulate some resources as soon as possible so that they could alter their destinies. They would usually choose to endure the situation. You're a peerless ruler. Why are you so spineless? Zhang Yuanrong was a little disappointed. He waved his hand and said, Enough with the nonsense. You, the Island Master, hand over all the immortal stones you have. The rest of the cultivators will hand over something each. By the way, many of you are new here. Don't forget to tell me. If you can't satisfy me, I won't go easy on you. The Island Master let out a sigh. Even though he had already moved his savings to somewhere else, he still had to hand over some immortal stones this time. The rest of the cultivators let out sighs too. Even though some of them had formidable backgrounds, they were unwilling to offend the Phoenix Blaze Path at the edge of the first immortal realm. You're the one that destroyed the Black Flame Spear, right? Not bad. You must be a peerless ruler too, right? If that's the case, I'll start with you. Zhang Yuanrong scanned the crowd, before locking his gaze onto Qin Nan's figure. The grin on his face grew wider. Since he dared to destroy his belongings, he would show him what he was capable of. However, when these words were spoken, the bodies of the Island Master and the others present trembled. A look of pleasant surprise flashed across the depths of their eyes, and they were very excited. There were more than 100 cultivators on the island, yet Zhang Yuanrong just had to pick this senior. What if I don't hand it over? Chapter 1939. The first appearance of the Sherdao tribe as Qin Nan thought. Qin Nan did not let the Island Master and the cultivators down. Everyone was overjoyed when they heard the words. Even though Zhang Yuanrong had a formidable background and a respectable identity, how could he possibly be comparable to Qin Nan? A Nine Heavens Supreme was considered an authority even in the first immortal realm. Even a formidable faction like the Phoenix Blaze Path would not dare to offend a Nine Heavens Supreme. Huh? What did you say? The grin on Zhang Yuanrong's face disappeared instantly. He was wondering if he had heard it wrong. The four peerless rulers beside him and the cultivators on the boat were dumbfounded. I'm not going to repeat the same thing twice, Qin Nan said calmly. Ha, not bad, you're a lot braver than the Island Master. How dare you speak to me like that? Zhang Yuanrong burst out laughing. His face was filled with excitement and a hint of ferocity as he said, Everyone, did you see that? He's the one that provoked me first. All of you, break his legs right now. The 4 peerless rulers and the cultivators on the boat wore a helpless look, yet they had no choice but to obey the order. "Young Master Zhang, wait!" The island master blurted out. "What is it? Are you trying to help him?" Zhang Yuanrong's eyes flickered. If the island master dared to say yes, he would immediately ask his men to cripple him. "Young Master Zhang, you might not know, but this senior is an important guest of our island, so I hope young Master Zhang can," the island master said while bringing his fists together. Even though he wanted Zhang Yuanrong to get himself killed, he still had to remind Zhang Yuanrong not to go overboard with it. Besides, if the situation got out of hand, he had already reminded Zhang Yuanrong out of kindness. It would be easier for him to explain himself if the people of the Phoenix Blaze Path or the mystical ruins asked. "Important guest? What important guest?" Zhang Yuanrong said disdainfully. "What are you waiting for? I don't care which faction he's from or who he is, break his legs at once. This is not any other place but the Saint Sea region." "Understood." 2 peerless rulers in the greater success stage and 2 others in the early stage of the peerless ruler realm immediately unleashed their immortal force. A shocking aura was directed at Qin Nan. To be able to destroy the black flame spear in one move, this thin scholar's cultivation should not be weak. The eyes of the island master and the cultivators immediately flickered with sympathy. It was one thing for Zhang Yuanrong to seek his own death, but it was a pity that he had implicated these innocent people. "What are they looking at?" Zhang Yuanrong was very sensitive. Seeing everyone's gazes, he could not help but be secretly annoyed. "After I've dealt with this scholar, I'll deal with all of you." Zhang Yuanrong gritted his teeth, and an inexplicable anger rose in his heart. Boom! The 4 peerless rulers made their moves. They took up positions in 4 directions and executed an immortal art each. All of a sudden, 4 illusionary figures of phoenixes of different colors appeared between the heavens and earth, emitting an extraordinary aura. According to the rumors, the Phoenix Blaze Path was established by a reputable blazing phoenix in the ancient times of the first immortal realm before she died. The Phoenix Blaze Path's art of Tao seeking and many immortal arts were left behind by the Phoenix Blaze. They were extremely powerful. Qin Nan's expression remained calm. When the 4 illusionary figures of phoenixes were about to grab him, he suddenly vanished into thin air and reappeared behind the 2 peerless rulers in the early stage. "What's going on?" The 2 peerless rulers in the early stage were startled and confused. A strong sense of danger rose in their hearts. They immediately used their trump cards without any hesitation. 2 immortal talismans burned vigorously. However, before they could unleash their power, the 2 of them could clearly sense a frightening aura soaring into the sky behind them. Following it, a magnificent saber glow tore the immortal talismans apart and slashed at them mercilessly. Bang! Following a huge blast, the 2 peerless rulers cried out in agony as they slammed into the sea in the distance. A single attack had inflicted serious injuries on them. He's no ordinary peerless ruler in the greater success stage. The 2 peerless rulers in the greater success stage were startled. They immediately executed a movement immortal art to back away from Qin Nan without any hesitation to put some distance between them. Immortal flames erupted in Qin Nan's eyes. Following it, wisps of white flames surged at them like an ocean. What kind of flames are those? The eyes of the 2 peerless rulers widened. However, before they could come up with a plan, they saw Qin Nan unleashing thousands of saber intent. Each saber intent was like the birth of a peerless artifact, resulting in a tremendous aura. 5th form of the divine god of battle, Tao-jolting saber art. Heaven-scorching phoenix scriptures, Tao art of rising from the ashes. In the nick of time, the 2 peerless rulers in the greater success stage let out a roar. They executed their arts of Tao seeking and performed the same hand seal. They immediately turned into the blazing phoenixes in the past. Bang bang bang! However, even though the Tao art they executed was able to ignore the power of ordinary flames, it was unable to ignore the Tao-melting immortal flames. Their bodies were burning vigorously. In addition to it, their mystical Tao art no longer had its usual strength. The saber intense slashed at them with brute force. The two peerless rulers in the greater success stage groaned in pain as they were knocked back by the saber intense. However, Qin Nan did not give them any time to react. He descended from the sky like a deity and threw a punch at each of them. Bang! The two peerless rulers spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. They slammed into the ocean in the distance with serious injuries. Ordinary peerless rulers in the greater success stage, or even peak peerless rulers, were no match for Qin Nan. They did not need to waste too much energy fighting him. Zhang Yuanrong and the cultivators on the boat were dumbfounded. They did not expect the skinny scholar to be so strong. Even a peak peerless ruler would not be able to defeat two peerless rulers in the greater success stage and one in the early stage in less than 30 breaths. The island master and the cultivators on the island were not surprised at all. If the senior was infuriated, he could easily kill them in a single breath. What now? Do you still want to break my legs? Qin Nan walked toward the ancient boat. What are you trying to do? Zhang Yuanrong's face turned slightly pale. He straightened his chest as if he had thought of something and said sternly, I'm telling you, my father is the patriarch of the Tao of Phoenix Blaze. My sworn brother is in the sacred ocean realm too. He's an exceptional genius of the Shi Dao tribe. Chapter 1940. Supremacy Transformation. The island master and the cultivators on the island felt even more sorry for Qin Nan. Zhang Yuanrong's words might be useful to others, but it was completely meaningless to Qin Nan. It might even bring about a worse outcome. Bang! As they thought, Qin Nan kicked Zhang Yuanrong in the chest without any hesitation. Even though Qin Nan did not use any force, Zhang Yuanrong, who was only in the peak Earth immortal realm, had no chance of surviving the attack. He let out a cry of agony and slammed heavily into the distance. How dare you hit me? Zhang Yuanrong's face was filled with pain and disbelief. He had only been beaten 5 times in the past few decades at the edge of the first immortal realm. What is it? Are you not convinced? Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. Bang! A strong aura surged across the ancient vessel. The weapon spirit hiding deep inside the vessel screamed. Zhang Yuanrong and the cultivators on the vessel wore pale faces as they trembled in fear. Such a scene was a stark contrast to their attitude when they first arrived. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll let you go if you answer a few questions, Qin Nan said. Are you serious? Zhang Yuanrong was overjoyed. He forced a smile. Say, senior, feel free to ask me anything. I'll tell you everything I know. He now completely understood that the thin and weak scholar in front of him didn't put his background in his eyes at all. He was very lucky to be safe and sound. You mentioned that your brother is an exceptional genius of the Shi Dao tribe? Qin Nan asked. That's right, my brother's name is Xiang Yuanxing. He has achieved the peak peerless ruler realm. He can even fight a 9 heavens supreme in the early stage for 1,000 breaths without losing. The 3 peerless rulers are no match against my brother, Zhang Yuanrong said proudly. Qin Nan asked as something crossed his mind, does everyone in the Shi Dao tribe have the surname Xiang? Zhang Yuanrong's face was filled with astonishment. The cultivation of this person in front of him was so terrifying, and he even ignored his background. It was obvious that his origin was astonishing. How could he not know about this? Even though he was confused, he did not overthink it. He immediately said, that's not it either. Only those whose bloodline has reached a certain level in the Shi Dao tribe are qualified to have the surname Xiang. The flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. The divine god of battle's name was Xiang Zun, and he had invented the Battle Dao immortal manuscript. Was he related to the Shi Dao tribe? Empress Feiyue's icy voice echoed in his mind. The divine god of battle is indeed from the Shi Dao tribe, but from what I know, the Sherdao tribe and the divine god of battle aren't on friendly terms. Qin Nan nodded and asked Zhang Yuanrong, "Did your big brother tell you why he came here?" Zhang Yuanrong thought for a moment and said, "It doesn't seem to be a big deal. I heard that they're looking for a successor of the immortals. That person seems to be surnamed Qin, but I don't remember his name. Senior, I can tell that you're quite curious about my big brother. Why don't I bring you to him once we reach the boundary? Don't worry, I can swear an immortal demon oath that I won't harm you," Zhang Yuanrong said carefully. It was true that he was not planning to harm Qin Nan. He just wanted to make sure he was safe. Who knew if the scholar would change his mind if he was in a good mood? "Don't worry, I won't kill you if I say I won't." Qin Nan glanced at him and said, "You can set sail now. I'll leave on my own once we reach the boundary. Besides, I've just come to the first immortal realm, so there are a lot of things I don't know. Tell me everything in detail." Zhang Yuanrong was slightly relieved. He sent someone to retrieve the 4 peerless rulers and activated the ancient Tao weapon. It flew forward with a shocking aura. He stood beside Qin Nan obediently like a student. He answered every question that Qin Nan asked him. The island master and the cultivators on the island let out a relieved sigh. "It's my first time seeing a 9 Heavens Supreme with such a good temper," the island master exclaimed. He was startled when he suddenly thought of something. Something wasn't right. Any exceptional genius who wanted to become a 9 Heavens Supreme would have to come to the first immortal realm to find the opportunity to become a 9 Heavens Supreme. If the man was a 9 Heavens Supreme, how could he not know anything about the first immortal realm? Which meant, at that moment, Zhang Yuanrong's face was filled with astonishment on the ancient ship. He initially thought the scholar was a 9 Heavens Supreme, yet he turned out to be a peerless ruler. However, Zhang Yuanrong was being honest. The man must be an exceptional genius from a formidable faction. "Ugh, Senior, you can enter the Supreme Transforming Left Realm or the Right Realm after crossing the boundary. Only these 2 places have the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth. Each sacred area of the heavens and earth occupies a huge area. They are different from each other, and they are mysterious too. Until now, no one has been able to see through their secret. Besides, only those who enter the sacred areas of the heavens and earth will have the opportunity to achieve the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm. That's how the Supreme Transforming Left Realm and Right Realm got their names," Zhang Yuanrong explained. "Sacred areas of the heavens and earth? How were they born?" Qin Nan raised his brows. The 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth were similar to the immortal ancient places. The difference was that the number of immortal ancient places was not fixed. New immortal ancient places would appear, and old ones would disappear too. Besides, it was possible to ascend as an immortal without relying on the immortal ancient places. However, if one did not enter the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth to find the opportunity to achieve the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm, it was impossible for them to achieve the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm. According to the elders of our sect, the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth have existed since the beginning of the world. However, they weren't like this back then. After a great battle, the rules of the world changed, resulting in their current state. Zhang Yuanrong scratched his head. "I see, apart from the Supreme Transforming Left Realm and Right Realm, what else is there?" Qin Nan asked. "The first immortal realm was able to attract the peerless rulers, 9 Heavens Supremes, and even the authorities in the Master Realm. It must be a lot more magnificent than that. The Supreme Transforming Left Realm and Right Realm are considered the lower and middle parts of the First Immortal Realm. The upper and middle parts of the First Immortal Realm are called the Void Heaven Realm." Zhang Yuanrong withdrew his neck and said, "I heard from my father that only the Void Heaven Realm is possible to achieve the Master Realm, or even stronger." He was quite respectful toward the Void Heaven Realm. After all, he had only been to the supreme transforming left realm and right realm a few times, yet he was beaten up 3 times. Wouldn't he be in danger if he went to the void heaven realm? Void heaven realm? Qin Nan was startled. He felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. Chapter 1941. The Void Heaven Realm. What factions are there in the Void Heaven Realm? How do I become a master of Tao? Qin Nan collected his thoughts after a while and asked. Senior, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in it, so I have no idea how to become a master of Tao. As for the factions, I don't know much about them either. I only know the ancient taboo, Mumen sect, Sherdao tribe, and the undying Cycle Mountain are in the Void Heaven realm. Zhang Yuanrong said softly. Ancient taboo, undying Cycle Mountain? The flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Wait, why is the Sherdao tribe in the first immortal realm? Shouldn't they be in the second immortal realm? Qin Nan asked as a thought crossed his mind. The other ancient tribes are indeed the same, but the Sherdao tribe used to be the strongest among the 10 ancient tribes in the past. Even though they have declined, they still have a strong foundation. Ordinary factions are no match for them. Oh, by the way, the tribe of immortal spirits and the rest of the 10 ancient tribes are in the Void Heaven realm too. Zhang Yuanrong said. Qin Nan nodded. It also explained why Zhang Yuanrong mentioned his father and Xiang Yuanxing when they stumbled into each other. We still have some time before we reach the boundary. Tell me more about the undying Cycle Mountain, Mumen sect, and the ancient taboo. Qin Nan said after a slight hesitation. Speaking of the undying Cycle Mountain, this junior knows a lot about it. The undying Cycle Mountain is a taboo in the Void Heaven realm, or even the entire first immortal realm. Rumors say it's related to the immortals. The mountain's location is still a mystery. Some say it's at the end of the immortal realm, while others say it's suppressing the true body of the ancient taboo. Besides, the most eye-catching thing about the mountain is that it used to have 10 trees, 6 herbs, and 3 flowers. The current strongest 9 heavens supreme, Empress Feiyue, has one of the 6 herbs, the immortal exterminating grass. She once used it to kill a 9 heaven supreme in the supreme transforming left realm when she was only a peak peerless ruler. The enormous ancient ship sailed across the surface of the sea at an astonishing speed. For the rest of the journey, they did not encounter any soul-devouring storms. Some pirates, after seeing the Phoenix Blaze Path's flag, also took a detour. Qin Nan and Zhang Yuanrong continued to chat. Especially after Zhang Yuanrong gradually relaxed, they talked more and more. Even though Zhang Yuanrong was not too familiar with the Void Heaven realm, he did know a lot about the Supreme Transforming Realms, the Supreme Transforming Realms, and the Borderlands. Qin Nan gradually learned more about the first immortal realm that he was unfamiliar with. For example, there was not a single faction in the Supreme Transforming Realms, but almost every faction in the 9 Heavens Immortal Realm had a certain number of people in the Supreme Transforming Realms. It was more complicated than Qin Nan had imagined. On top of that, there was another interesting matter. Over the years, the 9 Palace Golden Immortal sect had repeatedly announced that they were planning to establish an exceptional ranking and immortal emperor ranking in the Supreme Transforming Realms to rank the exceptional geniuses and peerless rulers. However, there were only a few people who responded to him. Time gradually passed. 5 hours later, in Qin Nan's sight, he saw a land over 80,000 zhang tall with a smooth, pitch-black surface, as if it had been sliced by a heavenly saber. It did not budge despite the waves of the sacred ocean realm. On the ground floated 8 enormous ancient cities that looked like ferocious ancient beasts, emitting various glows and emitting shocking auras. On the surface of the sea, there were rays of light that cultivators turned into and ancient ships flying into the cities. These were the receiving cities that Zhang Yuanrong mentioned. There were 36 of them in total. The 8 ancient cities were only one of them. These receiving cities were controlled by formidable factions such as the Mystical Ruins, the Phoenix Blaze Path, and others. Normally, cultivators would enter these cities after crossing the sacred ocean realm. The rise of many cultivators began in this place. Qin Nan was currently heading to the receiving cities under the Phoenix Blaze Path's control. However, Qin Nan was already prepared. He asked Zhang Yuanrong and the others to swear an immortal demon oath. There was nothing to worry about. Young master, you're back. When the ancient ship landed on a dojo in one of the ancient cities, a cultivator immediately went up to Qin Nan with a bow. Zhang Yuanrong wore a cold expression. He turned around and looked at Qin Nan with a smile. Senior, are you sure you don't want to visit our Phoenix Blaze Path? I can introduce you to Big Brother. Qin Nan shook his head. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the lively scene in the city. When he set foot on the land, he sharply sensed the immortal intent between the heavens and earth with an ancient aura. It was very beneficial for his cultivation. Qin Nan finally realized why the heaven immortals were so eager to come to the first immortal realm. It was more than enough to find a small blessed land at the edge of the sacred ocean realm. Meanwhile, more than 10 cultivators suddenly flew toward the city lord's mansion at a shocking pace. Disciples of the Mumin sect? Why are they here? Zhang Yuanrong was astounded. It was rare to see the disciples of the Mumin sect in the first immortal realm. Young master, you might not know, but the Sherdao tribe and the people of the Mumin sect seem to be looking for someone. They have sent their disciples to the receiving cities to set up artifacts at the teleportation portals. Once they find someone suspicious, they will investigate it immediately. The cultivator blurted out. Qin Nan frowned. Looking for someone suspicious? Weren't they here for him? However, on second thought, it did make sense. The edge of the first immortal realm and the supreme transforming realms were extremely spacious. If he did not stir up a huge commotion, the people of the Mumin sect and the Sherdao tribe would only be looking for a needle in a haystack. Staying in the receiving cities would save him a lot of trouble instead. Don't tell me they are looking for the successor of the immortals? TSK. These two factions are really going all out just to find an exceptional genius. Zhang Yuanrong shook his head. He was not interested at all. Come with me to Tianshu City, Qin Nan said calmly. Using the teleportation portals in the receiving cities, they could head to the 29 main cities at the edge of the sacred ocean realm. It was more convenient for them to head to the supreme transforming realms through the main cities. Besides, even though the Mumin sect and the Sherdao tribe were powerful, they would not send people to the main cities to look for suspicious cultivators. Otherwise, they would offend too many experts. He only asked Zhang Yuanrong to come with him to save himself some trouble. Sure, senior. Zhang Yuanrong nodded and invited Qin Nan with a gesture. Chapter 1942. The Flames of Wartianshu City was an ancient Tao weapon that was modified by a 9 heavens supreme. The walls were engraved with ancient killing formations that were connected to the mountains, grasslands, and forests nearby, allowing it to unleash a great power. Even though the city lord mansion of Tianshu City only had a peerless ruler in the greater success stage and a few heaven immortals, even if a few peak peerless rulers were to attack the city together, they would not be able to do anything to the city. Qin Nan glanced around the street. Most of the cultivators in the city were heaven immortals. Only a few peerless rulers were present. Qin Nan asked Zhang Yuanrong to buy a rough map of the borderlands. He then transmitted his thought with the badge that Supreme Chang Shao had given him. He left on his own and went for a stroll on the street. Ling Lanlan has been staying in the 4th small immortal realm for some time. I can ask her to come to the borderlands and settle down somewhere. However, it's going to be troublesome to cross the sacred ocean realm. I'll need the 8 Brilliance Demon Emperor's help. Qin Nan murmured. He was planning to head to the Supreme Transforming Realms and the Right Realms. These two places did not belong to any formidable factions, yet every faction in the Nine Heavens immortal realm had gathered there. He would surely encounter all kinds of dangers when he was searching for the fortunate encounter that would allow him to achieve the Nine Heavens supreme realm. As a safety precaution, he needed a place to recuperate. Ling Lanlin's Land of Extraordinaries was the perfect place for him. The forbidding auras in the Land of Extraordinaries were able to stop Nine Heavens Supremes with ease. A while later, Qin Nan received a response from the badge. He quickly inspected it with his divine sense. Junior brother Qin Nan, our Sky Taihuang Sex branch, is located in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. You can follow the map and find it. Qin Nan took a look at the map and memorized it. He took the teleportation method to the next city and flew into the rift like a ray of light. It was troublesome to travel to the Supreme Transforming Left Realm or the Right Realm from the borderlands. They would have to visit one of the 29 major cities, some of the more remote cities, and some ancient ruins to reach their destination. For example, Qin Nan had arrived at an enormous mountain range with no visible end after flying for more than an hour. It had a boundless aura. It was a place with mountains. He could only enter the Supreme Transforming Left Realm after crossing them. Someone's fighting? All of a sudden, Qin Nan sensed a slight energy fluctuation. He hesitated for a brief moment before continuing to fly forward. When he got closer, a hint of surprise gradually appeared in his eyes. The scale of the battle was beyond his imagination. Hundreds of immortal rays soared into the sky from the mountains. Several Dao weapons floated in the air while unleashing their auras. Immortal arts and Dao arts were unleashed one after another. When they collided with one another, the resulting shock waves shook the mountains, the ground quaked, and countless rifts appeared in the air. Not only were there heaven immortals, there were many peerless rulers too. Qin Nan collected his thoughts. He activated the immortal eyes of the divine god of battle. Are they the disciples of the immortal returning sect and the thousand demon sect? Qin Nan was startled. Two great powers were actually fighting here? At that instant, Qin Nan suddenly sensed something. He raised his head and looked into the distance. At first glance, his expression changed slightly. The scale of the battle between the two formidable factions had exceeded his expectations once again. 9 Heavens Supremes had shown up. Demon scum, how dare you try to kill the disciples of my sect? Die! A thunderous roar exploded in the rift. An old man with a face full of wrinkles and cold eyes in a robe embroidered with clouds appeared and shoved his hand forward. Bang! The rift within a few 100,000 zhang was shattered into pieces. The shattered pieces turned into longswords with shocking sword intents of the rift. They slashed at the peerless rulers and disciples of the 1,000 demons sect with overwhelming auras. Supreme do you really think you can kill the people of the 1,000 demon sect as you please? A mocking voice came from the distance. A young man with demonic runes on his face, and a middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes in an armor stained with blood arrived at the same time. Their formidable auras of the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm surged across the place like a strong gust of wind. The middle-aged man with scarlet eyes slashed the halberd in his hand. The countless void swords were instantly enveloped by demonic flames and burned into nothingness. Immortal returning sword formation. Supreme Du showed no sign of fear. He moved swiftly, summoning countless shadows of swords. The blue glow of the swords dyed the place blue. An even more shocking battle instantly took place. Qin Nan withdrew his eye technique upon seeing this. He was about to leave in another direction. Why are you hiding there so stealthily? Are you trying to ambush me? To his surprise, as soon as he made his move, the young martial highness of the 1,000 demons sect locked onto his figure with his eyes covered in demonic runes and pointed his finger forward. Whoosh! A formidable aura was accumulated instantly, which surged in Qin Nan's direction at a shocking pace like a surging tide. It was one of the Tao arts of the Thousand Demon sect, the Heavenly Demon Finger. F***K. Qin Nan cursed in his heart. He was so far away. How did it turn into him trying to ambush them? However, the power of the finger was extremely terrifying. Even with Qin Nan's current cultivation, he could sense a great danger from it. In the nick of time, Qin Nan fully unleashed the immortal force in his body. Tao jolting saber art. His right arm turned into the heaven-shattering saber and unleashed countless saber intents. The Tao-melting immortal flames in his body turned into a fiery dragon surging forward. Sky stride blow. Qin Nan's figure vanished into thin air as he found himself in a forest. There were 3 Nine Heavens Supremes around him. He would not use his moves if he could. Roar. However, as soon as Qin Nan landed on the ground, he heard a loud roar. An illusionary demon over 100 zhang tall appeared 1,000 zhang away from him and slashed at him with a blood-red saber. The heavenly demon finger executed by the young Nine Heavens Supreme had 2 deadly intents. Qin Nan's eyes burned fiercely. His hair drifted wildly in the wind. He did not panic facing the formidable saber intents. He was planning to use the Tree of Tao to shatter them with brute force. However, right at that moment, his heart instantly turned black. Furthermore, it started beating violently. Chapter 1943. Dragon and Phoenix Fire Lake Bang. A terrifying demonic will slammed into the devil's body. The demon holding the saber that was strong enough to slay a peerless ruler in the greater success stage suddenly froze as if it had encountered something terrifying. It let out a cry before disappearing into thin air following a blast. The young Nine Heavens Supreme and the middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes turned around. Their eyes flickered with astonishment following a glance. Is that, Qin Nan was startled. Wasn't that the mysterious demonic aura that was related to the 7th immortal, Demon Emperor Wutian? Why was it still inside his body? Let's leave this place first. Qin Nan quickly collected his thoughts. He executed the unstoppable step and disappeared into the rift on the other side. Quick, chase after him. The young Nine Heavens Supreme and the middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes collected their thoughts. Their auras skyrocketed and turned the rift into a demonic domain. Trying to run away? You are all going to die here today. Supreme Du let out a hollow laugh. Following it, immortal rays suddenly came from the mountain range in the distance. They intertwined into a giant net in less than a breath's time and encapsulated the young Nine Heavens Supreme and the middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes. Secrets of the Boundless World. 3 Heavens Supreme Judge Immortals. 3 Nine Heavens Supremes landed on the giant net with blinding glows. More than 100 rare phenomena took place immediately. 4 Nine Heavens Supremes. The Immortal Sect only has 5 Nine Heavens Supremes, but 4 of them are here. The peerless rulers and heaven immortals of the Thousand Demons sect were startled. Many of their eyes flickered with fear. However, the young Nine Heavens Supreme and the middle-aged Nine Heavens Supreme were not worried at all. Their eyes flickered with joy instead. They were not fighting against the Immortal Sect because they had been holding a grudge against them for a long time. They had done it on purpose. The reason being that Demon Emperor Wutian, who had disappeared for more than 2,000 years, had sent a message to the Thousand Demon sect. The person in the prophecy would pass by here. Even though the demonic intent that had burst forth from the scholarly man was extremely brief, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye, the two of them were certain that the scholarly man was the person in the prophecy. Oh no. Now that he's gone, where are we going to find him? The middle-aged man's expression changed as he came to his senses. Don't worry, since Lord Wu Tian has told us about this matter, then when the time comes, he will definitely tell us who this person is and where he is. Now, quickly send this news to the sect leader. The young Supreme Supremacy's eyes flickered. He glanced at Supreme Yu and the others and said with a bloodthirsty grin, "Now, let's have some fun with the people from the immortal sect." He formed a hand seal and pressed it downward. The mountains below instantly turned pitch black or blood red and emitted monstrous demonic chi. As for Qin Nan, after flying for half an hour, he did not sense any strange energy behind him. He let out a relieved sigh and inspected his heart with his divine sense. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not find the presence of the demonic chi, as if everything that had happened was just an illusion. Forget it. Qin Nan shook his head. It was not too late to ask Demon Emperor Wutian about it after he achieved the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm. 2 hours later, Qin Nan entered the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. The boundary between the Supreme Transforming Left Realm and the Supreme Transforming Left Realm was not very obvious, but Qin Nan could sense that the ancient immortal intent in every inch of the rift was 3 times stronger than before. Qin Nan checked the map and headed east. He saw a lot of things along the way. A few cultivators of the primordial tribes kept flying out of a magnificent mountain that reached the cloud. The figures of various primordial tribes appeared in a magnificent ancient city. He even saw the people of the tribe of immortal spirits, Wengu tribe, and Desai tribe that he was familiar with. In addition to it, he also saw some children under the age of 9 in some cities that had achieved the human god realm. The cultivation of the adults was mostly at the human immortal realm or above. It was another amazing thing about the first immortal realm. The cultivators who were born and raised in the first immortal realm were born with the martial highness realm. Their cultivation speed was significantly faster than the people of the other immortal realms. Qin Nan did not think there was any difference, as these people would be suppressed when they left the first immortal realm. They would only be able to utilize half of their strength. In addition to it, the Supreme Transforming Left Realm and Right Realm had countless formidable factions. Battles would break out between them all the time, thus they had to move their cities away. If they were unlucky, they would be implicated and die for no reason. This is the place. Qin Nan came to a stop. In front of him was a lake. However, there was no water in the lake. It had crimson golden flames and faint blue flames burning fiercely. The illusionary figures of dragons and phoenixes would appear from time to time. The place was called the Fire Lake of Dragons and Phoenixes. The peerless rulers of the Sky Taihuang sect had only claimed it after a great struggle. It was extremely powerful. Even peak peerless rulers would not be able to enter it with brute force. On top of that, it also had some ancient formations. As long as they were not peak 9 Heaven Supremes, they would be safe at the bottom of the lake. "Senior, I'm Qin Nan, and I'm here to visit you. Please tell me how to enter the lake." Qin Nan brought his fists together. However, there was no reaction from the bottom of the lake after a few moments. Qin Nan took out the badge and transmitted his thought. He waited patiently. 100 breaths later, there was still no reaction. Qin Nan frowned slightly, before he calmed down and said, "Excuse me for my rudeness." After he finished speaking, 2 white flames ignited in his eyes, and he directly stepped into the lake. An eerie sight took place. The Fire Lake of Dragons and Phoenixes scattered on its own like an ant that had encountered a giant. Qin Nan continued forward. When he reached the bottom of the lake, he saw an enormous gate over 10 zhang tall. There were countless formation runes on the giant door. Furthermore, it had merged with the entire bottom of the lake. There was no distinction between you and me. There was a figure behind the gate. He said with a hollow laugh when he saw Qin Nan coming to a stop, "If the Fire Lake of Dragons and Phoenixes can't stop him, I don't believe the gate can't stop him." Chapter 1944. What is the fortunate encounter? Beside the figure was a middle-aged man with 8 ancient swords on his back. He shook his head and said, Why are you doing this? With junior brother Qin Nan's current cultivation, it's reasonable for him to take over the place. The figure fell silent. However, judging from his expression, it was obvious that he did not think much of it. Qin Nan stood in front of the gate and scanned the figure. He did not say a word. His right arm exploded and transformed into the heaven-shattering saber. He unleashed the immortal force in his body. A strong aura burst out of his body. Is he trying to force his way in? How ridiculous! The figure that spoke before wore a disdainful look. He was not looking down on Qin Nan, but even a few peak peerless rulers would not be able to break through the gate, let alone force his way in. Lord of all worlds! Divine battle spirit! Two magnificent figures appeared behind Qin Nan. An ancient aura surged across the lake like a storm. The giant bronze door was under tremendous pressure, and the deathly still formation patterns suddenly glowed with brilliance. Sky Dao jolting saber art. Qin Nan executed the two arts of Dao seeking simultaneously. The Dao melting immortal flames encapsulated the heaven-shattering saber. It unleashed thousands of saber intents within an instant and gathered the saber intents together. His eyes were fixed on the lower left corner of the gate. He was about to slash at it. Is that, both the figure and the middle-aged man with the 8 ancient swords were stunned. He has seen through the weaknesses of the 3 formations. If he slashes at it, it's going to shatter the formations and trigger all the traps. The middle-aged man with 8 ancient swords was startled. He quickly performed a hand seal without hesitation. Open! The giant gate let out a dull thud as it sank downward, revealing a long flight of stairs. Qin Nan was not surprised at all, as if he had already expected this. He withdrew his aura and went down the stairs, arriving at a palace. Junior Qin Nan greets seniors. Qin Nan brought his fists together at the 2 figures in front of him. He noticed that the 2 figures were peak peerless rulers. They were only a step away from achieving the 9 heavens supreme realm. It was reasonable for him to address them as a junior. Junior brother Qin Nan, that's ridiculous. If you slashed at it, you might trigger all the traps and put yourself in danger. Even we won't be able to save you. The original figure immediately said in annoyance. He did not expect Qin Nan to come up with such a move. Senior, you've misunderstood me, I was only testing it. I wasn't planning. Qin Nan shook his head. Junior brother Qin Nan, let's not talk. We were cultivating in seclusion. We didn't receive your message. I'm sorry. The middle-aged man with 8 ancient swords smiled and said, Let me introduce you, this is Elder Zhang Yun. My name is Mu Danian, you can just call me Uncle Nian in the future. Qin Nan nodded. He looked around him. There were still many palaces, but they were all empty. Mu Danian smiled. Many people from our sect have come to the Supreme Transforming Left Realm, but most of them aren't here. They would only come back once in a while. He added after a slight hesitation, Junior brother Qin Nan, are you here for the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth? There are 39 sacred areas of the heavens and earth in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. Each of them is different, and some of them change frequently. Here's a map for you. Take a look at it and decide which sacred area you want to visit. He tossed a scroll to Qin Nan. Thanks, Uncle Nian. Qin Nan said. Zhang Yun harumphed and said, Junior brother Qin Nan, do you know what the opportunity to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm is? Even though he was planning to leave Qin Nan alone, he had no intention of picking on Qin Nan. Either way, Qin Nan was still his junior brother. I don't know, I hope senior brother can enlighten me. Zhang Yun nodded slightly and said, You should know that the best way to achieve the human immortal realm is to go to the immortal ancient places. It's a huge occasion, and the best way to achieve the peerless ruler realm is to go to a specific place. However, it's different when achieving the 9 heavens supreme realm. What's the 9 heavens supreme realm? The peak of the immortal realm is the 9 heavens supreme realm. If you've surpassed the 9 heavens supreme realm, you're no longer an immortal. Qin Nan fell into deep thought. On the other hand, the only way to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm is to go to the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth and find a fortunate encounter. The fortunate encounter isn't tangible. It's very vague. It might be something you've found in the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth. It might be something you've found in a great battle, a trial, or a failure. It might help you achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. Zhang Yun let out a sigh as a thought crossed his mind. However, some people might not even find a fortunate encounter in 100 years, while others might find it in a day. This, no one can say for sure, no one can be sure. For example, he had been in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm for 30 years. However, it only took Empress Feiyue less than 2 months to reach the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. According to Senior Empress Feiyue, if you aren't lucky enough, you should think about yourself. Visit more sacred areas of the heavens and earth and experience more things. You'll have a better chance if you rely on yourself. Zhang Yun added. Thank you for the advice, Senior. Qin Nan brought his fists together. He now had a better understanding of the fortunate encounter to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. If achieving the human immortal realm and the peerless ruler realm was a breakthrough in terms of immortal force, the fortunate encounter was more like a trial for one's soul. Qin Nan, we can't really give you any advice. According to the rules of the sect, you'll be in charge of this place with the badge. Mu Danian said with a smile. Uncle Nien, forget about it. I've come to the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. I'll spend most of my time in the sacred areas of the heavens and earth. Qin Nan rejected the offer without hesitation. He was only planning to stay in the first immortal realm for a while, since it was his first time there. He would not come here again if he had no other business. Mu Danian and Zhang Yun were startled. Once Qin Nan was in charge of the place, he would have a protective talisman. He could return to the place whenever he was in danger or was being hunted by his enemies. He could rely on the place to defend himself. Qin Nan waved his hand when he saw Mu Danian was about to say something. Uncle Nien, I'll take a look at the sacred areas first. I'll be leaving soon. He sat on the side and closed his eyes. He proceeded to inspect the place with his divine sense. Chapter 1945. 72 Sacred Areas of the Heavens and Earth. Qin Nan was immersed in the information as soon as he took a glance at it. The 72nd Sacred Area of the Heavens and Earth is located in the Supreme Transforming Right Realm. It is formed by the force of the 5 elements. It has lots of successions of the 5 elements, Tao arts, immortal arts, artifacts, and natural resources. Only those that practice the Tao of the 5 elements can claim the opportunity to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. The 46th Sacred Area of the Heavens and Earth is located in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. It has 72 floors in total. Each floor contains the will of an expert. Once a cultivator enters it, they will be surrounded by the will of the experts. If they win, they will proceed to the next floor. Every cultivator can only enter once, and the higher the final level, the greater the rewards they will receive. So far, 37 people have reached the 72nd floor. 16 people have claimed the opportunity to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm on the 72nd floor. The 24th Sacred Area of the Heavens and Earth is located in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. Once a cultivator enters it, their flesh and bones will be stripped away. They will be sent to a remote place, or even the secondary lower realm. The 15th Sacred Area of the Heavens and Earth is located in the Supreme Transforming Right Realm. Once a cultivator enters it, their cultivation will be reduced to the human immortal realm. They will have to start all over again. However, there are lots of successions and fortunate encounters in this area. It will be fairly quick for them to improve their cultivation again. If they are willing to be ruthless, they will reap great benefit. The first sacred area of the heavens and earth is located in the supreme transforming left realm. It is also known as the dead area. Anything is possible in this area. If you don't claim the opportunity to achieve the nine heavens supreme realm, you will never be able to leave this place. However, the number of people who claim the opportunity to achieve the nine heavens supreme realm in this area is 10 times more than in any other area. The current strongest nine heavens supreme, Empress Feiyue, is from this area. However, you must be careful when you choose. Each sacred area of the heavens and earth was like an independent world. It was similar to the forbidden grounds that Qin Nan had visited before. However, the most unique thing about each sacred area was that it did not guarantee the opportunity to achieve the nine heavens supreme realm. You would feel lost instead. Apart from the different sacred areas of the heavens and earth that attracted Qin Nan was intrigued too. 6,000 years ago, Sword Master Canhong once said that the 72 sacred zones of the heavens and earth were closely related to one another. Besides, it didn't exist to give people a chance to become a nine heavens supreme. Sacred area realm. There was a mysterious sacred area of the heavens and earth when the immortal realm was immortal realm. Sacred immortal realm. Sacred immortal. Immortal. On top of that, according to the information collected over the years, those who obtain the opportunity to achieve the nine heavens supreme realm in the sacred area of the heavens and earth will receive the benefits of the sacred area of the heavens and earth. It was obvious that many experts in the nine heavens immortal realm were interested in the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth. They even discovered some clues about them. Judging from what sacred area of the heavens and earth Immortal had mentioned, even if the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth were not hiding a shocking secret, there must be something else that no one knew about. How terrifying would the thing that the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth, which were the places where people in the nine heavens immortal realm could achieve the nine heavens supreme realm, be hiding? Upon having this thought, Qin Nan could not help but take a deep breath. After a while, he calmed his thoughts and opened his eyes. Qin Nan, aren't you intrigued by the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth? Mu Danian said gently. However, as your senior brother, I must give you a piece of advice. You shouldn't set foot in the first death zone when you have something on your mind. Zhang Yun nodded and said, Many exceptional geniuses have entered the first death zone since ancient times, but none of them came out. I wonder if they died in the battle or died of old age. Even if someone died in the first death zone, things like the Jade Badge of Life would still exist. Zhang Yun and Mu Danian had seen some nine heavens supremes coming to the first death zone and staying for a few days before leaving in silence. Don't worry, seniors. I won't go to the first death zone for now. Qin Nan shook his head and said, I'm more interested in the 46th and 24th sacred areas of the heavens and earth. I haven't decided which one I should go to yet. As a matter of fact, the 15th sacred area of the heavens and earth was not a bad choice either. If he lowered his cultivation to the human immortal realm and started over again, he might have a chance to reforge the Tree of Tao so that it would contain more than 12 Tao. However, it was only a chance, and the chance was extremely slim. Mu Danian and Zhang Yun were not surprised by Qin Nan's reaction. The former said, There's no rush, you can stay here for now. Qin Nan immediately said, Senior, that won't be necessary. A few formidable factions are looking for me. I'm afraid it's not safe for me to stay here any longer. I'll leave for now. Mu Danian and Zhang Yun exchanged glances with one another. They were well aware of Qin Nan's identity. It was not appropriate for them to say anything about it. Qin Nan brought his fists together after chatting with the two for a while. This Qin Nan isn't bad after interacting with him. He's very polite and doesn't seem to be proud at all, Zhang Yun said as he picked up a teacup. Ha ha, didn't you say you were going to ignore him? Mu Danian burst out laughing. Cough cough, it's all in the past. Let's not talk about it anymore. Mu Danian chatted with Zhang Yun for a while. After Zhang Yun left, Mu Danian took out an exquisite jade cup and stared at it blankly. After a long time, he struggled for a moment before coming to a decision. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Cultivator Xiang, I've made some progress with the thing you asked me to do. Qin Nan is going to the 46th or 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth. He hasn't decided which one to go to yet. Remember what you said. Cultivator, and I've just learned something. You can tell the ancient taboo Cultivator Wang. I've got the information that the Mumin sect is looking for. Mu Danian transmitted his thoughts to the badges before crushing the jade pendant in his hand into pieces with a cold expression. Cultivation was like sailing a boat against the current. If he did not move forward, he would fall behind. He was not as fortunate as Qin Nan, thus he had no choice but to come up with a plan to maximize the benefits for himself. As for the relationship between the factions? The relationship between senior and junior brothers? It was too unrealistic. Chapter 1946. A deadly trap. After Qin Nan left, he decided to head to the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth after a slight ponder. It would be best if he could return to the secondary lower realm during the trial. Qin Nan glanced at the map and turned into a ray of light disappearing into the distance. 2 hours later, Qin Nan arrived at the edge of a vast ocean. He saw an ancient blue bridge leading straight ahead amid the rolling waves. The end of the bridge was shrouded in a white mist, preventing him from peeking through it with his eye technique. Several palaces floated on both sides of the bridge, emitting various glows. Cultivators kept flying into the palaces from the distance. Meanwhile, more cultivators were walking onto the bridge and disappearing into the white mist from the palaces. Cultivators below the 9 heavens supreme realm were allowed to enter the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth in the supreme transforming realms. As such, apart from the peerless rulers, many heaven immortals, and even earth immortals would enter the sacred areas to try their luck. As Qin Nan was about to make his move, a strange feeling arose in his heart, as if someone was hiding in the dark, observing everything that was happening. Qin Nan, something doesn't feel right here. Doom said. His senses were a lot sharper after achieving the perfect success stage of the Tao realm. Qin Nan nodded. He immediately activated the immortal eyes of the divine god of battle. He was unable to see through the white mist on the bridge. There was nothing out of the ordinary in the palaces. He could even see the cultivators' cultivation and auras. There were no 9 heavens supremes around. Even peak peerless rulers were quite rare. Qin Nan frowned. Both he and Doom had a strange feeling. Something must be going on. But why could he not notice anything out of the ordinary? Could it be that the power of his eye technique had exceeded the range of his vision? All of a sudden, Qin Nan saw a wave-like ripple appearing in the air above a palace engraved with strange flowers and plants. Qin Nan was startled. Unstoppable step. He immediately unleashed the immortal force in his body without hesitation. He turned into a ray of light and flew backward at a shocking pace. Sky ceiling tower. A dignified voice exploded in the depths of the sky. Following it, a pitch-black ancient pagoda over 360 zhang tall with 7 floors appeared from the clouds. Its base resembled a blooming lotus flower, emitting a golden glow that encapsulated the area within 100,000 li. Qin Nan was within these 100,000 kilometers. Holy **T. Doom cursed. The other party had clearly come prepared. Although this sky-ceiling pagoda was an ancient Tao treasure, its power was extraordinary. The void within a radius of 100,000 miles had become incomparably rigid, like the crystal walls of a small world, difficult to break. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold, and a vast battle intent erupted from his body. He was prepared to attack and break the seal of the sky-ceiling pagoda. Don't waste your energy. Right now, you're like a turtle in a jar. A calm voice echoed in the rift. Following this, it was as if a veil had been lifted from the sky above the palaces. 3 enormous ancient vessels with different appearances, emitting Tao glows, floated into the air. Each ship had a few dozen cultivators standing on it. Each of them was a peerless ruler, and most of them were peerless rulers. In addition to it, Qin Nan's heart sank when he saw a hunchbacked old man on the first ship, a middle-aged man with a smile on the second ship, and a man in a black robe on the third ship. They were 3 Nine Heavens Supremes. Mumin sect? Sherdao tribe? Ancient taboo? Why are these 3 factions here? They even have 9 Heavens Supremes. Isn't that young man the exceptional genius of the Sherdao tribe, Xiang Yuanxing? The cultivators in the palaces were startled. They immediately took a closer look at the scene. Doom, these 3 Nine Heavens Supremes are only in the early stage. Let's attack them together at. Qin Nan transmitted his thoughts. He looked at a young man with short purple hair on the first ship and said, Xiang Yuanxing? How did you find me? Xiang Yuanxing smiled and said, It's not difficult to find you. You have ascended from the secondary lower realm. There's a 60% chance you're here in the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth. The 3 Nine Heavens Supremes immediately showed up 100 zhang away from Qin Nan. Qin Nan and Doom's hearts sank once again. It was impossible for them to escape the sky-ceiling tower when the 3 Nine Heavens Supremes were least prepared, unless they could defeat the 3 Nine Heavens Supremes in the early stage. The ancient taboo is here to kill you. However, the Sherdao tribe and the Mumin sect don't want you to die. So, if you want to live, tell me which immortal you're learning from. Xiang Yuanxing cracked his fingers and said, Qin Nan, I trust you. You're a smart man. You will make the right choice. The 9 Heavens Supreme in the Mumin sect harumphed. The 9 Heavens Supreme of the ancient taboo's hollow eyes were engulfed in flames. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. Qin Nan? The strongest immortal, Qin Nan, is here. No wonder the 3 factions are here. The cultivators in the palaces were astounded. Many of them quickly took out their badges and transmitted their thoughts. Not only was Qin Nan the strongest immortal, he was also the successor of the immortals. They were willing to tell their factions and ancient tribes everything they knew about him. Qin Nan frowned. He would be in great danger if he exposed his identity as the divine god of battle. However, the 3 factions were coming at him ferociously. If he did not expose his identity, he would have to rely on the Tree of Tao to stand a chance against them. He was going to practice the 12 Tao of Tao. Qin Nan, you have 3 breaths' time to think about it. If you don't tell us, I won't go easy on you. The 9 Heavens Supreme of the Mumin sect said coldly. The flames in Qin Nan's eyes burned fiercely upon hearing the words. There was no way he would expose his identity as the divine god of battle and let them decide his fate. If that was the case, let's fight. Sky Tai Huang, Tao Jolting Saber Art. Qin Nan immediately made his move. He first unleashed the Tao-melting immortal flames at the 3 Nine Heavens Supremes. He then unleashed thousands of saber intents to gather the power of the underworld. The 3 Nine Heavens Supremes, Xiang Yuanxing, and the others on the boat, and the cultivators in the palaces were stunned. They did not expect Qin Nan would dare to take the initiative under the circumstances. Chapter 1947. The underworld was exposed. Ha ha ha, fellow cultivators, he was the one who attacked first. I won't be breaking the oath if I kill him. The 9 Heavens Supreme of the ancient taboo was the first to react. He burst out laughing as a terrifying aura burst out of his body. The whole place began to shake vigorously. He drew a broken ancient sword out of the rift with his left hand. Its overwhelming sword intent immediately cracked the sky-ceiling tower apart as he prepared to slash at Qin Nan. "Cultivator, I'll stop him, you take care of Qin Nan," the Nine Heavens Supreme of the Sherdao tribe yelled. He stood in front of the Nine Heavens Supreme of the ancient taboo and unleashed a blinding glow to devour the sword intent. How naive! The Nine Heavens Supreme of the Mumin sect let out a hollow laugh. His aura alone shattered Qin Nan's Tao-melting immortal flames, saber glow, and aura into pieces. He did not use any art. He took a step forward and threw a punch at Qin Nan. Bang! Strong gusts of wind surged in all directions. Qin Nan's figure tensed as a great sense of danger rose in his heart. It felt like the punch was not coming at him, but the whole world. If he continued to attack, he would be going against the heavens and earth. Flower of Eternity! Qin Nan summoned the white-blue flower without any hesitation. The Nine Heavens Supreme of the Mumin sect wore a disdainful look. However, his expression froze when his punch landed on the flower. Bang, bang, bang! The rift was shattered into pieces. Despite the destructive force of the punch, the white-blue flower did not budge in the slightest. However, the glow on it had dimmed significantly. What kind of artifact is that? The Nine Heavens Supreme, the other two Nine Heavens Supremes, Xiang Yuanxing, and the rest of the cultivators in the palace were astounded. Could this be one of the three flowers floating out from the undying Cycle Mountain? Qin Nan, I didn't expect you to have such a supreme treasure in your body. However, the might of a paragon isn't something immortal kings like you can compare to. The Nine Heavens Supreme of the Mumin sect collected his thoughts. His aura rose rapidly. It was 5 times stronger than before. He had only used 20% of his strength just now. Qin Nan returned to his original appearance. White flames burned in his eyes, and his green-red hair danced in the wind. Facing this existence that was like an ancient mountain, he did not move at all. He formed a seal with one hand. He was going to beat the Nine Heavens Supreme today. 3 formidable factions in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm have sent their Nine Heavens Supremes to deal with a mere kid. Don't you feel ashamed? At that moment, a mocking voice was heard. A cultivator with a blood-red bandage around his left shoulder and a saber in his right hand and a middle-aged man with an indifferent expression and wisps of blue aura around him appeared in the air at the same time. A terrifying aura burst out from the two of them. The overwhelming pressure of the Nine Heavens Supremes swept in all directions like a violent gale. Qin Nan lifted his gaze and was startled. The middle-aged man with wisps of blue aura was none other than Supreme South World. Supreme South World looked at Qin Nan too. He wore a faint smile, yet his eyes flickered coldly. Supreme South World? Wu Shen? Why is the Heaven-slaying sect interfering too? The Nine Heavens Supremes of the Mumin sect and the Sherdao tribe were startled. It's none of your business. Wu Shen spat on the ground. He grinned at Qin Nan and said, We'll stop them for you. Hurry up and enter the sacred area. Wu Shen and Supreme South World performed a hand seal simultaneously and executed a powerful Tao art to attack the 3 Nine Heavens Supremes. Qin Nan immediately recalled the Flower of Eternity and flew forward. Qin Nan, no wonder you didn't want to tell us. You've been working with the Heaven-slaying sect for a long time. Xiang Yuanxing flicked his index finger. A formidable aura burst out of his body. That's great, I've been looking forward to meeting you. With a flicker, he disappeared from the boat and reappeared in front of Qin Nan within an instant. A halberd carved with several golden dragons appeared out of nowhere in his hand, which emitted a magnificent aura as he stabbed it in Qin Nan's direction like the glow of the heavens and earth. A strong pressure surged at Qin Nan's face and blew at his robe. Just from this move alone, it was enough to tell that Xiang Yuanxing's cultivation was not in vain. He was incomparably powerful. Even immortal Emperor Gushi, whom Qin Nan had slain, was incomparable to Xiang Yuanxing. Do it! In addition to him, the peerless rulers of the three factions on the ancient boats turned into rays of light and charged at Qin Nan. Meanwhile, the peerless rulers activated the ancient Tao weapons on the three ancient boats too. Countless runes flickered as they accumulated a terrifying power in the rift. Qin Nan unleashed the flower of eternity without hesitation. Normally, he would fight Xiang Yuanxing to his heart's content, but he had no idea what was going to happen next. It was better for him to enter the sacred area first. Bang bang bang! The battle between the 5-9 Heavens Supremes shook the heavens and earth. The battle between Qin Nan and Xiang Yuanxing and the others was extremely eye-catching. The 3-9 Heavens Supremes, Xiang Yuanxing, and the others were startled when they saw the flower of eternity shattering the immortal arts that Xiang Yuanxing and the others executed. The power of this flower was simply too domineering. It had just suffered a blow, but it still had such a godly power. Xiang Yuanxing, I'll fight you next time, Qin Nan said. The heaven-shattering saber in his hand was engulfed in white flames. He was going to execute the Tao-jolting saber art to suppress Xiang Yuanxing and the others so he could enter the sacred area. Supreme South World, who was fighting the 3-9 Heavens Supremes in the distance, chuckled coldly. Qin Nan had destroyed his South Heaven Gate in the Kanglan continent. He was also trapped in deadly formations because of Qin Nan in the blessed immortal land. He even suffered a blow from a master of Tao and almost died. As such, in his eyes, Qin Nan was his greatest enemy. Even though he was indebted to the Patriarch, and he knew why the Patriarch was protecting Qin Nan, he would never allow him to protect Qin Nan and let Qin Nan leave in one piece. Even though he would not kill Qin Nan for the sake of the Patriarch's plan, he would not let Qin Nan off so easily. Master burying coffin open, Supreme South World groaned in his heart. He activated the natal artifact that belonged to the 10th Immortal in his divine sense. Following this, an invisible force surged into Qin Nan's body. Is that? Qin Nan was startled. The divine battle spirit deep inside his body floated out on its own. It stood firmly between the heavens and earth with an ancient aura. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.